And we are back with another live stream. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Happy New Year, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming. It's going to be it's going to be a big one today, and I'm very excited to do this show with you guys. So let me introduce everybody here that we have on the panel today. So first, we have the articulation series. What's going on, my friend?
Hello, everyone.
Alrighty, and all the way from Canada, we have Kaiju Canuck. What's going on, my friend?
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here.
Awesome. And all the way from Tokyo, we have the great Figureman, Rockchala. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, how's it going? Good morning or evening to you all.
Awesome. And we have, of course, the one and only Heisenberg. What's going on, my friend?
Oh, hello. Oh, yeah, very happy to be here.
Awesome. And finally, we have Mike Monsters, figure photographer extraordinaire. What's going on, my friend?
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So before we begin today's topic, let's just talk about break the ice a little bit here, you know. So I got to give a big congratulations to Kaiju Canuck. He just recently joined YouTube not too long ago, and he already hit, what was it, 1,400 subs?
Yes, 1,400 subscribers.
Awesome. Congratulations. And
bravo.
Thank you.
Well done.
He hit 1,400. I hit 14,000 today. So I was like,
There you go.
Wow. Awesome. Alrighty. So, man, we have 18 people in the chat already. What's going on, everybody? So let's just acknowledge some people in the chat. So Jed Ocampo, what's going on? And we have, let's see, we have articulation series in 2 places at once. Alrighty, so you should send me free SH MonsterArts. Oh, yeah.
Who said that?
Right.
Not white men.
Not white men, yeah. Funny. Alrighty. And I'm here. What's going on, buddy? So Javier Productions, is that how you pronounce it? Javier Productions. Okay. We have Wowzilla 2000. What's going on? Thank you for that. Okay. And yes, so that's pretty much it. So before we begin, does anybody have anything that they want to anything that they want to say before we begin today's topic?
Say, have we all seen Godzilla -1 at this point?
Yes.
Yep. Poor Harold.
I think we're
Unfortunately,
waiting
still
on Harold.
no Taiwan
I don't
release,
think-
right?
Yes, I think Harold is still out though.
No, I have
Not by
seen
choice.
Godzilla
Not by
minus
choice.
one.
Not by choice.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, it's such a bummer, man. I mean, we're like literally right next to Japan, 3 hours away by airplane, and the movie chains here didn't buy the rights to that movie. I'm like, oh my God, man, how can this happen? But anyway, so I'll just have to wait until like it streams, or I'm waiting for that Blu-ray announcement. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
So yeah. Alrighty, so let's okay, so what's going on? So Gojira 851, thank you for coming. All right, guys, now the reason why we are here today, guys, okay, look, we care about this community. We are all collectors and things, you know what I mean? We enjoy what we do, and you know, just lately everybody's just been up in arms for, in my opinion, things that shouldn't be, you know? So for this show today, for this live stream today, we have goals in mind, okay? One goal is to inform everybody, to educate everybody better about what's going on in the industry and like how companies operate and stuff like that. Like I personally don't know everything, but there are people here on this panel that know a lot more than I do. Okay, so we're here. I'm here to learn as well. Okay, another thing that we're here to do, we're here to not do, is to attack anybody that's in the community. Okay, because a lot's been said. Okay, and but in that discourse, they did bring up a lot of points that I think is worth discussing more, having a more in-depth conversation and things. Okay, so we're not here to attack anybody or make anybody's enemies of anybody. You know what I mean? We want to discuss more of those points that's been said. All right, and for a lot of people that's been saying negative comments and stuff like that, we're not here to shame you either, okay, guys? So like we all make mistakes and things, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So like I just want everybody to relax and let's just have a good time with this, all right? So with that said, let's get right down to our first topic for today, which is why are SH MonsterArts figures so expensive? Okay, so why $140? Why is that? Is there really bad QC? Okay, so let's discuss that point. So who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
jump in.
Okay.
At least, I guess the first one, I think this is going to be different for everyone, what people consider cheap and expensive. At least for me, I wouldn't really consider it expensive that much. Sometimes it gets a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, I think what we get for the value or the price point is pretty much in line with what it costs to manufacture something, right?
Sure.
I think the big caveat that a lot of people now compare is a figure made in or a Japanese company versus one in China, right? Or the other companies, or now manufacturing in different countries as well. But one of the big things that you're going to also have to add on is manufacturing costs, right? Or the rights in that country will add on as well. So I think that is what I won't go into too much details on this now. I think maybe add on. I think there's another couple of questions later, but so I'll just keep it simple for now. Overall, I think price point is okay for what we get and where it's being manufactured when you think about the workers' rights and other stuff as well.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So anybody else? Oh, Kyle?
Yeah, I think that what is also needs to be factored in when you're thinking about price is the appeal of the property itself and how many units are being produced of these figures. So like as an example, I've seen some folks asking like, why is SH MonsterArts Jet Jaguar this like twice as expensive as Figuarts when they're comparable in scale, comparable in articulation? And it's like, listen, I don't know too much about Figuarts. I know a little bit about MonsterArts. I know less about Figuarts. But I look at what's coming out in Figuarts, and they're all modern properties. We're talking Ultraman, we're talking, Chainsaw Man, like all the modern properties. Those things are going to always be more popular just by the precedent. Like Jet Jaguar is what, 50 years old? He's a 50-year-old character, and so to put him on the same sort of level as a Figuarts Ultraman and say, oh, like they should be the same price. I think that's really underestimating how many people care about Showa Jet Jaguar. And so I think it's fair to say that characters with that niche appeal are getting fewer units made. And if they're getting fewer units made, then you're going to need to charge more per unit to get your tooling costs back. And so I feel as though being part of this community, sometimes we trick ourselves into thinking that these characters are more popular or more beloved than they really are by the mass market. I've done a couple of videos on this, and so I think that that's a big piece. Is that we sort of fool ourselves into saying, oh, like there should be hundreds of thousands of this thing made, and that's why it should be cheaper. Where it's like, no, there's not that many people.
Sure. Okay.
That's one big thing, right? Like everyone likes to think what they like is what everyone else likes and what everyone else is into. But
Sure.
That's not the case, right? So
yeah. Okay. Mike Monsters?
Yeah, I'm going to echo off of what Kyle kind of said there. Like we haven't seen a Godzilla 98 figure because they haven't seen the numbers to produce that yet. Everybody says they want it, but we haven't seen them actually prove that they want it with their bank account, kind of thing. Like, they keep doing these polls online, or they look at Twitter polls. They look at, there's a Bluefin Brands tweet saying, how badly do you want Godzilla 98? And that brought some numbers in, but that wasn't still enough for them to go, okay, yeah, people want to buy this. Because realistically, from my understanding, is Godzilla 98's more popular in the United States than really anywhere else. And this is just one example to one monster, one specific.
Sure.
And so like he's very like he's wanted here. And yes, there are people in other countries that want it, but they're not showing as much demand as the United States audience. So they are factoring in so many different streams of information essentially to make these figures as well. And sometimes that is why costs are higher as well. I mean, that's what I was told while working there. I specifically asked, where is the Godzilla 98? That tweet did so well. And they said, yeah, it did well, but not well enough.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Articulation series.
Yeah. So, you know, you guys all make a lot of great points right there with everything you brought up. So I just kind of want to tackle a little bit at a time right there. So the first thing is, you know, I want to say that we are spoiled here in the United States. We get MonsterArts figures despite whether they're a general release or a web exclusive. They come over here as pretty much general retail, no matter what label they're going to have right there. So I think it's very easy for the general consumer to get lost in that, because these figures are brought over so easily, that it's our market. These are for us. But I think it's important to remember that Bandai Tamashii Nations operates out of Japan. They work on these figures and they look at these figures more so with their domestic audience when it comes to choosing those. And I know people don't like to hear that, you know, because they've also said that the United States is a strategic market for the SH MonsterArts line. But the thing is it's more than just saying that it's strategic. There's still the home base operation of how that works. So, you know, when you're factoring in monster popularity and everything like that, that's just kind of how they look at it. They look at, that's why when you guys see me publish those survey results, or not results, but, you know, what they have on the targeted surveys list, the United States does not have a way to actually participate in those feedback surveys. That is just strictly Japan only. In fact, none of the other world can do those surveys except for the domestic audience. There was a point in time where we did have access to some of those surveys for a little bit, but they didn't include, you know, specific monsters. They just had a kind of a category where you could just write in what character you're looking for. But that's kind of figured out. If you look out on their Tamashis, if you get a MonsterArts figure, I'll have a little on the manual at the very bottom. It says Tamashi survey. When you go there, it's very outdated. You go to the MonsterArts section, and it's stuff that was released in 2021 and hasn't been anything ever since then. And so it's just a little bit more of an understanding that these products are Japan first. The rest of the world is kind of piggybacking off of the success, even if we are strategic opportunity. So just it helps to understand that. So if you come from that place, you understand why the decisions of that are being made. The next one I want to talk about, though, is, you know, we talk about Jet Jaguar, and, you know, why is it so much more expensive than the SH Figuarts, you know? And Kyle brought up, you know, oh, well, there's maybe less units being produced. And I think the big takeaway from that, too, is to also recognize that it's a premium Bandai product. Those are not general retail where, you know, there's a set amount that are put out there to the market. It's made to order in Japan. So that's why it costs more, is because they don't know how much is going to be made. There's a cutoff. You have, I think it's like a month or two of pre-orders in Japan, and then that's it. It's aftermarket. But that's when I go back to saying we're a little spoiled in the United States, because for us, we don't get that cutoff. We can pre-order Jet Jaguar all the way up until after release, or up to release, and then there still might be some left over on the market. So I think it's important to understand, too, that when we see MonsterArts pricing so high for some figures, you have to look at it. Is it a general release? Is it a web exclusive, a premium Bandai release? If it is a premium Bandai release, you can guarantee that there's going to be a markup on there just because of the nature of the label. They increase the price of everything that has the premium Bandai price. There's a big, I call it the P Bandai tax. That's just
Sure.
kind of how it goes with that. Because if you look at, you know, Jet Jaguar, if it was $95 here in the United States, if we took the P Bandai label off of that, it would probably be a $75 figure.
Okay.
So those are just some things I want to bring up.
Okay, Nathan, go ahead.
Yeah, just to go back on your premium Bandai tax thing. This, I guess, for anyone that's not familiar, since I am in Japan, used to premium Bandai. So you have retail release from Tamashii, and then you have premium Bandai. So premium Bandai is their own exclusive shop in Japan.
Exactly.
And now they do have worldwide, like US, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, but limited items on those ones. So the purpose that they use it for is to give a release method for figures that people aren't necessarily going to be buying in bulk, right? So anything that's retail releases for the general public, maybe non-fans will pick up, it's going to, shops will buy it and they know that they can sell it in high quantity. Premium Bandai, on the other hand, they're very limited release, like Carl mentioned as well, with some of these figures like Jet Jaguar, right? So they'll put it up and it's made to order, so very small limited runs, so therefore smaller runs, more cost, so they do cost more. So it's not really
precisely
that they're costing more because they're there. It's more they're a niche product. They're only for the hardcore collectors, and it gives, like, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't get a lot of these figures, right? Because who's going to make Jet Jaguar, put them in the shelf, you know, say Walmart or whoever sells in America, they'll buy, like, yeah, I'll buy 5,000 of these. Oh, they don't sell. Okay, this product doesn't sell. We won't buy the next MonsterArts. Now, the next retail one won't be bought because why would they waste their shelf space on a product that doesn't move? So
Sure. Okay.
That's a really good point that you brought up too, with the whole, you know, when you go into mass production, there's a volume charge that they do with companies, right? You know, if it's general release, they're going to be a massive amount of figures that they're going to produce versus the P Bandai, which is, you know, a limited amount. So the more you buy from a manufacturer perspective or from a business perspective to a manufacturer, they're going to cut you a bigger discount when it comes to making more, you know? So that's a very excellent point on that right there.
Great. Cool. Let's talk about this figure that we're looking at right now. Okay, so the SH MonsterArts Godzilla -1. Now, I love this figure, absolutely. You know what I mean? I think it's a fantastic figure. So, what do you guys? So for those of you who have your copy, what's your impression of this figure?
I guess
Nathan, go ahead.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I got it. I've played around with a few actually. I was even on the live stream with them at Tamashii Nation, so I got to play with it there as well. So yeah, I really dig this figure. The texture, the color, the spines are a bit deadly, to be honest. But I did see some people online where the printing of a face didn't look quite as good. I haven't seen it in multiple copies that I've looked at, so can't say how widespread that is. But I think one point I would touch on that I've noticed with other figures is a lot of figures, the plastic and paint also reflects differently in different light, different cameras. You know, if it's a older phone, newer phone, is the lens dirty? But people just take a photo and post it, and sometimes that can exaggerate things which in person you don't really see.
Sure,
100%.
You know, it's like those a
lot of times, so you're like when you see those leaked photos, like the first, you know, like the first person to post photos, almost always, all the time, it's always just bad photos, bad, and then all of a sudden people get into an uproar. Oh my God, look, this figure looks terrible and things. But then once I get it in hand, I was like, oh no way, man. And then like I do toy photography and stuff like that, and like this figure is so photogenic. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure you guys see my shots. You know what I mean? But like this figure just looks fantastic, man. Yeah. So I don't know. Anybody else? Thank you, D-Man. What's going on, buddy? And earlier we had Rob from ETN. What's going on, my friend? Yeah. Okay, so now, why $140? Now, there is. I was watching not too long ago Kyle's stream with Kyle Wadaga, okay, of Super 7, and he mentioned something very interesting that I would like to share with you guys. So let me just pull that up for you so you guys can see. Let me see. Hold on a second. Okay, just give me a second, guys. I want to play this for you.
The suspense, Harold.
The suspense, eh?
This is when something that doesn't expected shows up. The unexpected shows up.
Oh, God.
Oh yeah. Is this
Yeah,
from,
hold
That's
on a
how it
second.
would go
Hold
for
on a
me.
second. Oh, yeah?
I tell you, this clip is from the Kaiju Canuck interview.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, I recommend
Great.
checking out the Kaiju Canuck interview with
thank
Kyle
you.
from Super 7. They got to go and do a lot of detail.
Oh,
Did
we lost the host.
Did we
Oh, we
lose
lost.
the
Oh
host?
yeah, I think Harold pushed the wrong
Did we?
button.
We lost.
Oh
the
yeah, he's
captain.
gone.
This is our stream now.
Ah,
Oh,
there he is.
I'm back, guys. Sorry. Oh, like I'm trying to do this like without my mouse. Like I forgot my mouse at my school, and like this is proving to be very, very difficult.
Okay.
And it's not letting me share this video. Oh,
I'll have to
We'll need
maybe
to
Kyle
check
can.
it out later then.
Yeah.
Well,
Do you have too long didn't read
You know,
version?
Yeah,
while
maybe
you're
Kyle
working
can
on
read
that,
it.
Harold, I'll just kind of piggyback on what we're talking about with the lighting. You know, when
Your
we-
oh, hold on.
perspective,
Okay,
like,
I'll start here.
Oh, we're good.
where do you think figures are most likely to get held up or hung up?
Usually it's factory, like scheduling and capacity times, just because there are only so many factories that can do this type of work and do it well. I mean, my LinkedIn and my inbox is like inundated, like probably 20 times a week with like new factory contacts. They're like, hey, we want to do this stuff. And it's like, and you look at it and it's like, oh, you have no experience in injection molding, but you've done like plates before, but you want to make action figures. Like, no, I'm good. So that's why you only really get to use so many of the same factories, because they're the only ones that have the experience in it. And what's interesting about that is that like most of the same companies use the same figures.
Wow.
Who make figures use the same factories. Sorry.
Right.
Like when I was overseas, like walking through factories, and I was like, I know who is making that, or I know what that is. Like you're not supposed to acknowledge it. It's kind of interesting. So,
what do you think are some of the hidden costs of making a figure that people might not be privy to?
Deco is a big one. Specifically, like the more washes you have, the more spray masks you have to make. That kind of stuff can really, really add up. And another one that's kind of I've touched on it a little bit in the Discord discussions is your assembly costs can get pretty high. Specifically, like people were like, oh, well, why do SH MonsterArts, you know, they're whatever, it's $140 for this -1 Godzilla, and it's like, well, that is a brand, that is all new tooling, like that figure's never been done before, and you know, all of those parts have to be kind of hand assembled. There's no like solid pieces, like they have to pop each single joint together to assemble the figure. It's not like, you know, there's not like a reaction figure. It's like you inject the half of the torso, the back of the torso, and then the legs, and then you shove them all together. Like that assembly cost is like minimal because it's very quick. But if you like, it's the thing that people forget is that these are all hand assembled in factory. So however many 200 parts there are for your -1 Godzilla, like they are hand snapped together, and it takes time. That's expensive, and so it's honestly, it's kind of a miracle that thing is only $140.
Wow. Alrighty, so that's what I wanted to share with you. And you know, when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's incredible. So hats off to you, Kyle, for that interview. Very well done.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Harold.
Yeah.
If I could just jump in and say one more thing. There's
Sure.
a new toy company that's sort of entering the game called Ramen Toy. Now, there are some very, very conflicted opinions about Ramen Toy and their, let's say, navigation of licensing. But they're very transparent about the process that goes into making their toys. And they've been posting some behind the scenes photos of some of the stuff that they're doing. They're doing some vehicles right now, and they're taking photos and videos of them at the factory. And where you would think it's like machines putting the toys together, it's not. It's a dude at a desk with a screwdriver screwing these things together, right? So I think people don't realize that, like, that -1 figure, I don't have it, but I've seen like enough videos. There are so many moving pieces on that thing that someone in a factory is sitting and putting together. Like, and you know, there's an argument to be made that, like, you know, maybe people don't care about that big, they only care about the final figure. And yeah, sure, fair enough, but like, you need to kind of care about it if you're going to ask the question, why is this thing $140?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's also really sharp, so imagine putting those things together.
Yeah,
like, with your hands, like.
But yeah,
If
sharp's
anybody-
delicate, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Michael, go ahead.
you know, if anybody that's watching the stream right now, if you haven't had the opportunity to see it, if you go onto YouTube and you just type in Tamashii Nation's quality, there is a very good instructional video about how their process works. You know, what they do, how they make the figures, how it goes from concept through 3D renders to sculpting to the manufacturing process. They don't show any SH MonsterArts in the process of doing that, but you get a general idea of how big this operation is. And, you know, I agree. Like, it's a wonder how we get what we're getting in a section scale for the prices that we've been getting them at all. It's a wonder how we get them that way. But if you haven't checked that video out, go check it out. It's very informative, and I think it might give you some insight of just like, wow, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was, you know, and maybe a better understanding of the pricing that they come with. And I also wanted to add as well on top of that, you know, if you're comparing, there's a big, well, maybe we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
Okay, cool.
We'll talk about it
All
later.
right. So, okay, so let's move on to the next point. So, how does Tamashii Nations incorporate customer feedback into their business plan? Okay, so so do they have a business plan? Okay, so, and also too, it's been stated by a lot of people that they're putting minimal effort into the SH MonsterArts, and also is Bandai too big to fail? So let's discuss that point. Okay, so who would like to go first?
Well, I do actually worry about the fact that Bandai does seem to be so dominant in Japan that it does, like, I haven't looked closely, but I do get the impression that it's a monopoly that's exerting a lot of pressure. That when someone new comes along, like Easy Hobby, and they want to make something that looks like Easy Hobby in Taiwan, if they want to make something,
Sure.
I get the impression sometimes that Bandai is putting pressure on Toho, not saying Toho, don't let them have the license. So it's interesting. I'm glad that that Hya Toys now has the worldwide rights to sell their toys, interestingly enough, except in Japan. I assume that's because Bandai doesn't want them competing with them in Japan. What was the other part of the question? Oh yeah, well, that's my concern about Bandai being big. And it seems like, and it's every time I look, it seems like they're even bigger. It turns out that it's like some company that I thought might have been independent, like X Plus, is actually also owned by Bandai.
Yeah, because like when you buy the X Plus figures, like you see the Namco Bandai logo like right in the bottom corner. You know, I was like, oh, okay, so they are part of Bandai after all. I didn't know that until I started collecting SH things. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then I think part of it you said too is like I've actually been quite surprised that it seems like, again, it's like, am I just looking at what their products? It seems like they're the figures they put out for the Legendary movies have been quite disappointing. Like the movie Monster series, Legendary figures put out by Bandai have often disappointed me. I wasn't sure if that's because they're like just kind of less interested in making the toys for the American films or what's what's happening. But luckily those aren't the luckily there are alternatives.
Yeah, there's other offerings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Anybody else?
Yes. Yeah, I'll jump in.
Okay, Nathan, go ahead.
So yeah, obviously I've dealt with them quite a bit. More so for the Figurearts side than the MonsterArts, but I definitely know that they take all the feedback seriously in terms of what people are saying online as well. And that's why their promotions team, right? They're always asking, especially at events or if they do live streams, let them know what's happening, what you want, and any details like that. They will take it back, and then they do share internally a lot. But maybe this is one bit of a difference from like a Japanese company perspective, and maybe not even US, but Western or sometimes other companies. In Japan, you're not that I don't want to say transparent, but you'll acknowledge stuff, but you won't say it to everyone, right? You're taking all information, you'll improve. They're always aiming to improve and make things better, but they may not actually outright say it.
Sure. And I think, you know what? I think that's something that Hya Toys has capitalized on, you know what I mean? Because like you see it in their solicitations and stuff like that, like whenever they release figures and stuff, like that first Godzilla, clearly, it was beautiful figure, but clearly it had issues that, the neck and the hinge and stuff, right? And then 9 months later, okay, we get a brand new Godzilla and like all new engineering in the neck and in the joint, and they acknowledge that in that solicitation. I was like, wow, like when I first saw that, I was like, I've never seen a company do that outright. You know what I mean? So, and people do notice that, you know what I mean? And that's what leads people to think that, yeah, Hya Toys listens to the customer face and Bandai not so much. I think that's one of the reasons.
Yeah. Jump back in there. That what you were mentioning. This is an example from MonsterArts, but for the Figurearts time goes by fast. 2022 Tamashii Nations event, they showcased the Kid Naruto and Sasuke figure from Naruto series. Anyway, a lot of people online say, "Oh, the arms are too big. It's too long. It's bad. Please make it shorter. Please, reduce the size." And about 1 month later, they came around, showed new photos. Hey, look, we listened to your feedback. The R&D guy, we've taken it back to him. He's reduced the size. It will be updated for the actual production release. And they did. They came through. They explained what they did, and worked on everyone's, the customers' feedback from that point. So they do it. It's just maybe what they do say out loud will change from each team. I do know the promotions guy, OB, he's working really hard to be a lot more, not transparent, but a lot more communicative with the fan base lately as well, which is great. So hopefully we'll see it more for MonsterArts as well.
Yeah. Cool.
So just wanted to point or just say I think the big difference is that when you get to companies like I don't know how big Hya is. Yeah. Super 7 is a good example of a smaller company, though. They have local distribution here in the United States and everything. But I think when you're dealing with a company that's not as big as Bandai, they have that freedom to be transparent. And I think that's something that people don't understand or know here in the United States, looking into Bandai's workflow and how they work things. Everything is a trade secret there. It's all locked down. They will never, ever usually go out of their way to acknowledge anything that's, oh, this was done wrong, we're sorry, unless it was like a factory defect and they're saying, hey, you know what, we're going to recall this and we're going to redo it for you. But to say that they're not listening, I think is a bit unfair, because if you look at the line, since it's conception, we have been asking for certain things, and yes, they haven't happened right away as much as we want to have them happen, but they've made strides in what we would like to see in the line. Like, we're getting more Showa now. There was a point in time where they were busting out repaints over and over and over again. Everybody was kind of like, hey, what's going on? And they cooled it. And now we've been getting new figures, and even the decisive battle variants, even though technically they're recolors or anything like that, but they're revitalized in a way that kind of makes us older collectors come back. Like Space Godzilla, for example. it's different from the special color version, which just has a different color and maybe extra shoulder effect parts. But this time you have damaged effects. That's pretty awesome. I would, as a casual collector, I want that because I would just like to have a battle damaged version of Space Godzilla. And it also gives the opportunity for the newer collectors that missed out on a 2012 release to get that now without having to pay absorbent, aftermarket fees. So, and I think as much as we all like to collect these lines, as Godzilla collectors, we just want to see every single monster get made. That's what we want. We want every monster to get, every character to be made, and then we can have that in our collection. I think at the end of the day, we have to remember that this is a toy company at its core, a collectible company. They're here to make money. How do we make money? They double dip on molds, triple drip, 7 dips, whatever you want to call it. They have to make the longevity of the line last long enough. If we got every single release in Godzilla, for example, just all new releases, there's going to be a stopping point, right?
Sure.
It's going to end. So I think that's my point I'm trying to say is they're not about making it end. They're making it last as long as they can while keeping older collectors here and bringing in new collectors. And I think that's something that the general public struggles to understand when it comes to collecting these, because we just want what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks when we're not getting what we want because we're so loud and passionate about it. But that's just something to think about.
Sure. Kyle? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just to jump on that, I think Michael's really nailed it on the head. Now, I think that Tamashii Nations, I think that you need to take a closer look to see the ways in which they respond to things. Maybe I'm just like seeing something that I want to see. But as an example, the special color version of the Monsterverse Ghidorah, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but to me that did feel like a figure where it was like, yeah, the first one was kind of borked in terms of quality control. Like the one that I got, like it literally crumbled right out of the box. Whereas the special colored version, like that,
this guy right here,
yeah, it was like.
You mean the one that I have standing? You mean the one that I have standing without stands right now?
Yes.
What?
Yes, mine crumbled to dust out of the box, Michael. So,
I believe
but
you.
I got the
So
second version, and it was like completely different. The tolerance was great. Like the way that the paint that they used really brought out that detail. So that to me did feel like a figure that was Tamashii being like, yeah, we could have done a better job, right? And having those decisive battle versions or their special color versions, like that is a way for them to say, yeah, it's been a while since this figure's been out, and clearly that there's a demand for it. Like we're on Space Godzilla #3, but I have no doubt that thing is going to sell well. But I do have a question for Michael. We talked a little bit about how MonsterArts is like a Japan first product that us here in other parts of the world get to enjoy, even though we're not the core audience. And so I'm sure that there's a large group of people, not so much me, because again, I don't really collect MonsterArts too much. But is it fair to say that the feedback that you get from these smaller markets may not be as heard as strongly as the Japanese market?
I think so. I think that's fair to say, because like I kind of mentioned earlier, for when it comes to feedback for these figures in Japan, you actually have feedback surveys with every single figure that you can get. And if you go on there, you can see it's these questions are very targeted. Like, would you like the shape of the head? Would you rate the coloring, the deco, all this other stuff? And it goes down the line. It's very, very in-depth for their feedback surveys. And for the United States or other countries, we cannot partake in those surveys. So what we're told as of last year last year in San Diego Comic-Con, we touched on this. we touched on. I'm sorry, I bumped my table. Why did you do that? I just made a big deal about you not falling. Don't do that again, okay? That's what. But you know what? That's why I put these guys in front, because I knew that would probably happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but anyway, what was I gonna say? What was I saying?
Oh man.
Yeah, you talking
I
about
lost
San
my whole
Diego
train of
Comic
thought.
when you were at San Diego
Oh
Comic
yeah.
Con?
So when I was at San Diego Comic Con, I was really trying to get that question across because everybody wants to give their feedback, but there wasn't really any clear instructions about how the people in the United States or any other country can give feedback. So what we were basically told is we don't have a way to do that for you guys right now, but please continue to go on social media, tag us in your comments. We look at all the feedback. And that's why I started doing the MonsterArts campaigns. That's why you're seeing that every week. This is in response to what they've said. They've told us how to do it. And I know that there's a big group of people out there saying, it's social media, they don't listen and all that, but they really do. They really are looking at the social media. They're looking at these posts. They're looking at all the likes. They're looking at all the comments and everything. They're seeing where all that feedback is. And because I am also, considered the Western collector here, all that data that's being said there, you're not seeing other Japanese folks commenting on my stuff. You're not seeing people from maybe other different countries that speak other languages. It's mostly all English responses. So they all kind of count that as the Western area, territory, whatever you want to call it. So it's just something to think about, I guess, when it comes to that kind of stuff. It's just, it's difficult. Let me circle back with you, Kyle. It is more difficult for us to get our voice across because of how limited in a way that we can communicate with them. Even though it's on social media, it may not be the best way in our eyes, but that's the way that they've kind of paved it out for us for now.
Sure.
Go ahead, Michael. Mike Monsters.
And to echo the social media thing, I have been in. I mean, I for those who are watching that didn't know, I worked at Bandai. I have been in the offices, in the rooms, while they have screenshots of tweets up with high numbers on the bottoms. Like, though they use those tweets, they use the social media chatter as push for these things to get made, or reasons why they don't get made, or reasons why they failed. Like if they put something out and see that the numbers aren't there, they might have to reevaluate. They scrap, they throw the idea out, or they just completely just change course completely, so I'm just trying to echo that. Yes, they do look at the feedback, and I have been in the room while I've seen specifically even that Godzilla 98 tweet that I referred to earlier. That tweet was brought up so many times when I was working at the offices, yeah. So
okay.
And I remember we were all saying like, "Hey, let's get to 10,000," and never really broke. It barely broke 5,000.
Yeah, it moved really quick. It moved really fast, really quick, and then it just did. And that's how it works sometimes. And that's kind of a proof of how maybe there might be a buzz for it, but that doesn't mean there's a lot of want for it. Like, there's a little bit there, and the people that saw it want it, and they'll jump on that. But it doesn't always indicate that the full entire audience of the fan base necessarily wants that figure.
Okay, but before we get to you, Nathan, let's answer this question here. So, do the Japan markets give criticism as much as overseas? The Japan viewer I saw are mostly just impressed and loving everything, no questions asked. They kind of just enjoy it the way it is. So
that's kind of one thing I was going to jump on and answer.
Okay,
that's all good. But before that, so yeah, I'll answer Pandu's question in a moment, but also for the feedback, as Mike Monsters and our technicians all saying, they really do look and listen, and Mike has first experience of that. But there's also two caveats or two issues with that. One, too many people just say, "This is stupid, this sucks, not buying it, you guys suck." What can you do for that? Nothing.
What is the criticism?
Say,
it's a garbage comment.
This is nice, but I don't like the sculpt of the head because XYZ reason. Oh, the color of this I don't like. If it was purple, it'd be fantastic. Give clear feedback, guys. So important.
It really is.
It really is. Yeah.
Now for the Japan market, they do. Oh, they get pretty complaint. No, I've got a few Japanese friends. I got into this from my Japanese friends, right? We'll be working away. He'll be talking about the latest MonsterArts release, this and that. So. They definitely complain a lot about the details as well, and they are very pedantic. But at the same time, a lot of people who buy them, they're also buying it because they like it. They're buying it because they like the product, the series, the character. So they're going to enjoy it as well. I feel like maybe it's not as common in the West where people begrudgingly buy stuff and then hate on what they buy. So I don't think that is common here. If that makes sense.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
I don't
That
know
is a
why.
thing.
That is a
Like, people are
thing.
like, oh
That
God,
is
I
a
hate
thing.
this thing, but I'm buying it. So it's like, why? You don't have to
I mean,
buy it. You don't like it.
Exactly.
Don't buy it.
Yeah, that can kind of go into the topic of discussion tonight. It's like there's some people
Yeah.
that buy things just to get mad about it and
Yeah,
then make a
just to get
video
mad
about it,
Yeah.
and that's their whole thing. Like,
Yeah,
maybe take a breath.
exactly.
Maybe
Yeah.
Like-
reevaluate why you do this if you're doing it that way.
Sure.
Exactly. Like I buy a lot because I do reviews for MonsterArts and Figurearts and stuff. Well, but even sometimes I'll buy stuff that maybe I'm not invested in. I'll still like point out what's nice. If there's anything that I buy personally I don't like, I'll point out. But I'm still overall enjoying it unless it's really bad, which I will say. But for the most part, I still get the enjoyment out of it, and that's why I'm collecting figures. It's just either fun for it to look at while you're working, or bored in a meeting, or
Diversifying
taking
your
photos.
collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Cool. So let's go on to the next topic. Okay, so how has Hya Toys impacted SH MonsterArts? Okay, so I think it's, you know what, like the whole landscape for collecting like the 6-inch figures, the 7-inch figures, since Hya's arrival, like everything's changed, you know, because I remember like when I first reviewed the very first Godzilla from Hya Toys, I mean, I was like, wow, this is a great figure and things. Clearly it has its shortcomings, you know, the neck, the joint on the jaw and things like that, you know what I mean? But I saw potential in that, in, you know, in this company, just having that figure and things, you know what I mean? And I remember at the time there was a lot of people that were like diehard SH Monsters, it's crap, blah, 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 blah. And then 9 months later, oh my God, they completely re-engineered the neck and the joint and things, even the sculpting details of the head and everything, and now everybody's praising you know what I mean, like it's like a total reverse. Now everybody's like hating on the other guy now, you know what I mean? So it's changed the landscape. But the thing though is too, like, I mean, I still collect my SH MonsterArts. I mean, I still like, you know what I mean? Again, I like, you know, I have a different purpose as an artist, you know what I mean? And like different figures give me different things for different photos and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So like I haven't stopped using my SH MonsterArts for photos. I just recently did a photo with Kong Godzilla and Mecha Godzilla fighting and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So I mean, I don't know, man. That's just my take. I don't know what you guys feel. Anybody?
I mean, I think it's. I'll just take this off. So when it comes to comparing one company into the other and everything, you know, both companies appreciate their own space. You know, when I was at SDCC, you know, I was there with Chris, and you know, he got to talk to Hya for a minute, and you know, he asked them what they think about MonsterArts, and they basically, you know, told him like, oh yeah, they're really cool. They're what they do is so great and everything, and that partially, I mean, maybe it even inspired them to do their own figures of these, anyways. But they like that, and they don't want to necessarily replace MonsterArts. That's one thing. They just want to be able to do their own toy and appreciate what they're able to do and spread the love of Godzilla, essentially, in this case. So I think it's very toxic for fans to go out and just say, well, Hya is going to take over MonsterArts. MonsterArts needs to go, you know, lose the license or something like that, because they're even if they are more accurate looking, you know, because they're using the finished 3D files, they have their own collector space. They're more budget friendly. I don't own any Hya figures, so I can't attest to how they feel compared to a MonsterArts figure. But you know, it sounds like from what I've discussed with you guys and with other people is that, you know, they're not as technical when it comes to like a MonsterArts figure. You know, the ball joints, it's if anything, it's like a NECA 2.0. It's like if NECA was a little bit more premium on that end, that's kind of like where Hya falls. And that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, NECA was like $20-$30 range, and then Hya's $50-$60 range or something. So I think that they fill that void for the collector that maybe can't afford the higher premium stuff that's out there, like Bandai MonsterArts.
Yeah, I think the lower price point is what has gotten a lot of people's attention, and accessibility. And I think now they're becoming more, more easy to get too. But yeah, I think that like with Playmates too, I've seen a lot of interest last like few years in the Playmates and in the Hya. I think because they do cost less, so that makes it like it makes them more accessible.
Sure.
And so I think the but yeah, it's like, and my impression is mostly that Hya is filling the niche that NECA used to.
Sure.
But that they sort of yeah, it's sort of and the fact that they do kind of like feel a lot like the NECAs, but yeah, I like the fact that they're a little bigger. I think the fact that they're a little bigger also adds to the appeal, and that they do sort of like really sort of like evoke the monsters as they looked in the movie. They do have like a nice accuracy to them.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Kyle?
they do have like sort of like that less articulation and less and also quite a bit of the stiffness that NECA had.
Sure. Yeah, it's like, it's like what you said earlier. Well, I think it was Michael that said earlier, like if NECA kept going, you know what I mean? This is like it would eventually look like, you know what I mean? So like, but who knows? I mean, maybe if NECA had kept going, maybe NECA would be at that price range that these figures are now because of inflation and things. I really don't know, but yeah.
That's another thing. That's another thing to consider in general too, is the price of materials compared to when MonsterArts first came out compared to now. It's gone up quite a bit, and there's import tariffs that are being charged that are even higher than they were back then. That also inflates our price. Currency conversion was originally considered a lot of the time when we were pricing MonsterArts figures, but now it's literally like you see, 149, a 14,000 yen price, that's going to be $140 now here in the United States. So there's no currency conversion anymore. So it's just it's the landscape has shifted as far as the economy goes too. And I know people like, oh, that's such a cop-out excuse, but it's a fact. It's the truth. Like, we're not making this up. We're not trying to give excuses. We're just telling you the fact that material costs, wages, people getting paid more, that has all gone up. And so with that, the prices are also going to go up when it comes to importing things too.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay. Kyle, did you have something to say?
Yeah. So I wanted to address the initial question, but I also want to point out that we have a bit of a troublemaker in the comments. This guy who kind of just goes video, just spewing stuff. He said that this panel is damage control for Bandai, especially me, apparently, which is funny because I am probably like the biggest MonsterArts hater on the panel.
Yeah.
Like I've publicly said I don't think they're fun and they fall apart too easily. So like, if you're gonna stick around and just hate watch us, maybe keep an open mind. You might learn something.
Sure.
But Hya Toys. So one thing is that I think that any competition is always going to be good. I think it holds people accountable. I think that it forces different companies to think more strategically about the things that they're releasing. What I will say specifically about Hya Toys is that there are bigger conversations around exactly what their licensing entails, because they've debuted a prototype for 1991 Heisei Godzilla. And in the conversations that I've had, there are folks wondering, like, how is that even possible? Because you've got other companies that have the license for articulated Godzilla action figure, classic articulated action figures for Godzilla. And so, there might be a reason that we haven't seen a solicitation for that yet, because there are some really major questions as to how exactly they're being allowed to make figures in that scale when MonsterArts is doing it, Super 7 is doing it, so I'm not really sure what's going on with Hya, to be honest. They're making great stuff, but the licensing is very strange. It's a very strange time that we're in right now.
Yeah. Michael, do you have something to say? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just to kind of answer a little bit of that right there, and I don't know if Mike Monsters over there knows this too, working with them as well. But when it comes to licensing these toys and everything, you have territories that, are considered. Japan, what can be made in Japan can be made in Japan, but if a company in America has that license, they can't bring that same product over there. And so for Tamashii Nations, they have that global appeal. They may not make a product because it is not allowed to be brought over to the United States, that kind of thing. Go for it.
That's the Star Wars line. They can't bring SH Figuarts Star Wars figures over here. The Indiana Jones figure, it's not over here in the United States. Those are, I mean, U.S. brands right there, and you cannot get them in the United States unless you import them because of licensing.
Yeah.
That's just one example.
So in that could be, yeah, exactly. So there's a licensing restriction of what can be sold. You know, Hya, you know, we noted that they started out in China mainland only, but now they've expanded to globally, except for Japan. That all has to do with the licensing contracts, you know, that they have to come up. They can't sell in Japan. And it's likely probably because Bandai is the control of that mainland, Japan over there. And then another thing to add on that, you mentioned scale. Different scales. I learned this when I first started working with alongside with Bandai, when it was back when it was Bluefin, is that scale toys have different licensing. So if you have a 4-inch scale, that's a whole different license. 7-inch scale, whole different license terms. 6-inch scale, different licensing. So you can have Bandai creating 6-inch figures and NECA creating 7-inch figures. That's how that happens right there. Now, maybe NECA couldn't do a 6-inch figure, but at the same time, you have to remember this when it comes to American companies doing stuff. They're not necessarily told you can't do this figure because Bandai is doing this in Japan, if that makes sense. Because what Bandai is doing in Japan is meant for Japan, but maybe they can't bring their product from America to Japan. And that's what's going on with Hya. Hya's doing their 7-inch scale product. They can't take it over to Japan because of whatever Bandai or other companies have in place that's already over there. I think in Japan, they actually have a non-competition agreement or act or something like that that prevents this kind of stuff going on.
Oh, wow.
Nathan might know more about that since he lives there, but I've read a little bit about that. There's a non-competitive legal act that's over there or something.
Actually, I'm not sure. I haven't heard about that one. I need to look that one up. Actually,
I'll have to look it up again. I just happened to be watching something about, you know, when it comes to video game companies, they can't do certain things. And so that's why I heard it. I need to do more research on it, though.
I think Mike, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, also, sometimes it's not necessarily the toy company, it's the license holder that is requesting some of these things to be made. And so like we have to look back in time a little bit and realize that Bandai and Toho have been partners for a very, very long time. And it's Toho that goes to Bandai often. And so who is to blame sometimes is it daddy or mommy?
I think and to that, Mike, I think if you look at Shin Godzilla MonsterArts figures, that is a good example of that, where Toho has their agenda of what kind of product they want pushed out to the masses.
Yeah, same with Legendary.
You saw that with X Plus, you saw it with Movie Monsters, you saw it with SH MonsterArts. There was a variant for just about every 4th Shin form out there, right? For every across the board. It wasn't just MonsterArts.
Yeah,
so
just to speak to that with the Legendary figures, there may be reasons why we continuously see this Godzilla remolded over and over again, repainted. It might be because Legendary requests another paint job. Simply that, you know?
Yeah.
Just one thing to add on to what Mike Monsters is saying, like about Legendary and the Toho ones. Like, look, Toho's in their backyard. Hey, we want to talk to Toho. Walk across, the street. Not literally, but basically that's it. Hey, we're going to get this sorted, get it done. Legendary, way over there. They can't do anything, right? It's,
it's a phone call,
email, phone. And it's
a time difference too. That's the thing. It's not just email. You have to wait a whole business day sometimes to get a response.
So now if you compare this with another line for a comparison, like, so Bandai, SH MonsterArts, Japanese company working with Toho, Japanese company, awesome. Legendary stuff, good, maybe lacking from what, a lot of people say. So,
yeah.
Can I finish this?
Keep going until you finish.
Okay. But if you look at, let's say, Marvel, Marvel mainly in the US with like Hasbro, right? They do so much. Tamashii also does Marvel figures, but their selection is a lot more limited. And again, similar comparison, where that main franchise IP holder is located and where the manufacturing company is located, your ties are a lot closer. So you get like a lot more, maybe leniency, leeway. You can, get things, basically get the ball rolling a lot faster, which means more product, maybe better accuracy and so forth.
Yeah,
plays a big role.
All right, so there's a a comment in the chat by Harama Burath. SH MonsterArts should have the utmost accuracy and details with the price that they are. That's my point. They're so expensive, yet they look so off and have many issues at the price that it should be rare. Like,
yeah, I actually agree with him. I don't know why he's throwing shit at me. Like, I actually agree with him on this point, right? Like,
yeah,
It's you. It's all you.
It's all you. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't get hung up on accuracy anymore. I just want a good looking figure. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at like Shin Godzilla, like that Shin Godzilla's got so much detail to that monster, and then to shrink that down to a 6-inch, you're gonna lose that. You're gonna lose a lot of that detail. You know what I mean? So like, I have like, you know, the X Pluses and the gigantic series. Like, you want the utmost, the best quality Shin Godzilla, then you need to buy like a bigger figure. You know what I mean?
X Plus.
Yeah, the X Plus and stuff like that. Like, you're not going to be able to cram in as much detail, you know, especially for a mass-produced figure. I seriously doubt it, man.
Yeah. It's interesting looking back at the NECAs, because like as the Hyas have been coming out, like we've been like going back to compare them against the NECAs, and it seems like NECA did take more liberties. Like they were a little more stylized, but it's like a lot of the choices they made. It's like we actually like. It's like it's like not quite it's like they changed from how it looked in the movie, but it actually looks like very good. So so often
and
I
a lot of those
kind of like often I just want to like be able to have some sort of emotional response to it. It doesn't have to be, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be accurate.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those changes too that NECA made. You know, if you compare a NECA Godzilla to the Hya one, there is a significant loss of detail in that figure. The silhouette looks similar, right? But if you compare them, you hold them next to each other, the Hya figure definitely has a lot more sculpted details into it compared to what NECA originally did. The NECA does come off, honestly, a little bit more toy, more than the Hya does. So, and I think that is a good example of seeing the cost difference right there. You know, you go from a $20, $30 to the $50 price. There's that detail bump. What does MonsterArts look like when it comes to detail? There's like so many little everything all over the place. You look at any kind of, like, even this guy, just the 2014 Godzilla right here. There's just so much detail that's put in here. It's just, everything is just bumpy all over the place, you know, compared to, and like I said, I don't own any Hya figures, so I can't say what those feel like and what they look like in hand. But if you hold the MonsterArts Monsterverse Godzilla in your hand, and you hold the Hya in there, you know, what has more texture, what has more details? And that's what I'm getting at. Is not about accuracy, it's about the cost. That's what I'm talking about. Look at the cost, appreciate the cost of why it costs this much. There's so much more detail that's packed into this sculpt than there is in the Hya sculpt or the NECA sculpt by comparison.
Sure.
I think it's hard to get that point by without really touching them, though, like Michael was saying, because you gotta really feel like a Hya figure feels smooth compared to the like really gritty, like scaly version. Like they both technically have the scales and the textures, but it's like sharper on a MonsterArts or something like that. How many times do we all say, "Be careful"? I just said it in my Gamera review that I put up today.
Right.
Be careful with the wings; you'll cut yourself. Like I very rarely often have that with another brand. It's very sharp with the MonsterArts, and I could be wrong with that, but because I don't have like all of the brands myself, I just have a few here and there. But usually these figures are like extremely like detailed. That's the only word we can use. There's probably a better word, but
yeah. And very posable. It's like actually the things I like the most about SH MonsterArts is when someone like Harold and others will take the time to like put it in a really nice pose and take a really nice picture of it. And I like the photos. Actually, like someone don't recall who, but actually someone did some nice series of photos of the SH MonsterArts from Godzilla versus Kong, where Kong was like very sad, was like, you know, looking, they made Kong look like kind of depressed, and Godzilla was like coming over to like comfort him. And like I think Kong was like had a little toy bottle that he was like drinking from. and it was just like, oh, these just wonderful pictures. So I do admire that about like in particular about the MonsterArts, that with this articulation, if you take the time, you can get these very expressive poses and photographs of them.
Sure. Okay. All right. Now, what about like people trying to sell off their old SH MonsterArts, especially the Ghidorah. Like I saw that coming, you know what I mean? Like when Ghidorah was announced for Hya, I saw like a whole bunch of people like, oh, I'm selling my SH MonsterArts. I want that Ghidorah, you know what I mean? But then now, like, good luck trying to sell their Ghidorah. I don't know, man.
I can actually, I just sold my Ghidorah. And I originally tried to sell it locally for the price that I was expected to pay for the Hya. Like I wasn't trying to make my money back. I was just like, how can I get a one-to-one replacement, basically? I could not get it sold for the life of me. And so recently I put it back up and I ended up selling it for equivalent. This is the special color version. I ended up selling it for about equivalent $95 US. And it was in great condition. All the joints were good. I had it in its box, everything. Could not sell that thing for anywhere near close to what I got it for. So that's my experience with it. I do go on some of I'm on 3 major Discord servers, I would say. I've seen a couple of people saying that they've been having difficulties moving the original version. The original version, not so much the special colored version. But I think that, that might have to do with the fact that the original version, I think almost inarguably, is a lesser quality version of that mold. But that is my experience. I had a really hard time selling my special color version Ghidorah.
Oh, yeah. Alrighty. So we lost Michael, and my computer has froze. I can't.
Oh no!
Oh
yeah.
no!
Yeah, my computer froze, and I don't have my mouse with me, so like this is getting difficult. But anyways, I think we can continue on. So let me see. Oh, why is this happening? Anyways, so moving on to the next topic. It was also brought up about the legacy sculptors. Okay, so Sakai, Wakasa. Okay, so prices raising because legacy sculptors attached to the product. You know what I mean? So should there be a second cheaper line that does not have those big names attached? So let's discuss that. What do you think?
I guess.
Go ahead.
I don't really think it matters. Like at the end of the day, you have to pay for a sculptor regardless. Sure, they may cost a little bit more, but it's probably factored into the line anyway. And like the MonsterArts, right? People, again, like it's touched on already. Main market is Japan. That's what the Japanese people want. They're really big into.
Let me just keep going. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. No. Like people here, they're big into maybe the actors, sculptors, voice actors, and that does carry a lot of weight here for these figures. So having that attached, it probably does help them. A lot of other people, they probably don't care.
Yeah.
And if you want something cheaper, go for another company. Nika, they don't exist anymore, right? But Hya is the latest case, which doing sculpted figures, if that's more in your budget, buy that.
Yeah.
There's a thing to buying something made by a certain artist. Like I have certain Godzilla figures like by Mondo who are sculpted by Attack Peter or something, There is a bit of a I'm not using I can't think of the word right now, but there's something to buying something that an artist worked on. And somebody like Wakasa or Sakai, those are big Godzilla artists. And to know that I might have bought something that a Godzilla artist from a suit helped make, that's pretty cool in my opinion. And that's what you're helping raise the price for. That's kind of the whole point of that. I mean, they are the masters of what made this franchise what it is in a way. So it's like, why not have them involved? And that's I mean, it makes sense why the price is the way it is when you think of it that way. In my opinion, at least.
Yeah, Mike, do you think that some folks though are attributing like the cost of these figures too much to those sculptors?
Yes, because I think a lot of it, people are not thinking about the cost of possibly and I could be wrong here, the cost of maybe the actual licensing of the figure over the cost of what the sculptor is involved, you know. But I don't know the exact breakdown of percentage of what breaks the whole price down to who does what, you know.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes, yeah, if that's the argument people are saying, if it's not accurate, I can totally hear that. But sometimes the accuracy is lost due to the artist's interpretation or representation of the figure.
Sure.
And that's what you're kind of looking for when you like. I have a couple of Yuji Sakai mini statues, and they are not exactly accurate, but they are his style, you know.
Yeah.
And like I got them for that reason. Sorry.
If the question is like, you know, should there be a MonsterArts line that's not done by Sakai? Like, does that just mean that we're talking going from a $100 Godzilla to a $90 Godzilla?
Right.
Like, at that point, it just seems like you're splitting hairs, right? So, like, so I know the slide that Harold was going to bring up because I wrote it. But the question was like, with the rise of independent talent, do we need legacy sculptors? And I think you don't need them, but to your point, Mike, like there are going to be people that buy into the line because you want the person that made those original suits. Like that's what makes it special, and that's not what you're going to get with Hya once they delve into you know, their classic Godzilla license. But at the same time, like to the other point, like some people just won't care. Like you know, it's like they'll say like, oh, that's neat, and they'll move on, right? They'll say the figure's still too expensive. So it was a strange point to be brought up into the community, like the legacy sculptors affecting the price point. I just don't get the sensation that it's that big of a factor.
Right. Especially when there are other versions of the same figure out there by other companies. I get it if it's an isolated figure to like a very specific monster and only one company's making that. But there are other options usually most of the time for other companies. So maybe this one isn't for you. And I think a lot of the general collecting audience might be able to learn how to say that, like, this isn't for me, and that's okay. Let's move on to what I do like instead of complaining about what I don't. And that's a valid thing too. Like you can criticize, but sometimes it's like you can also just realize this one's not for me. And
you just walk away.
Right. And the perfect example right now is, and you, Kyle, you brought up, you made a video about it, the recent Godzilla X Kong SH MonsterArts. I have been waiting for that bomb to drop. I've known about this for a long time. I knew they were not really changing much. And I was like, oh God, people are going to go nuts. But then I thought about it. I was like, okay, these are because they sold well previously. And they just need to get figures out for when, and I don't say just, they need to get figures out for when the movie releases. And I'm not sure if marketing was gonna show Godzilla Evolved so early. I'm not entirely sure, but like we knew there was gonna be a standard form Godzilla, so why not just expect that release anyways at the same time? And since that's been out for so long, and you may have that version of a figure before, this one's not for you. This one's for other people. Right. This one's for the people that are going to be Godzilla fans after they see this movie for the first time. Yeah, this is going to be someone's first MonsterArts figure. Yeah, like there's so many just different ways to look at why they're releasing the same sculpt, same figures essentially again, and it's not for you all the time.
There's okay. I'm having a technical issue, guys. My screen froze, and nothing is like, and I'm on a Mac. Does anybody?
No.
Command, Control, Escape. Have you tried doing any of that? Or is it Option Command? Let me see if I do it on my. It's Option Command Escape, and maybe that'll like force quit something in the background that might be overpowered. I don't know if that's helping you.
Maybe.
No.
We lost.
What did you do, Mike? That was calculated.
I used to work at the Apple Store too, and that was me to shut his whole computer down. This is my show now.
Alt F4.
Yeah, one thing that came up that I'm curious what you guys know about is like, yeah, just how much of the cost is like paying Toho for the
Sorry, Mike.
Because
there I am. I'm back.
Yeah, from the little I know, my impression is that Toho wants a lot of money for the license. So, like,
Yes,
that's what I hear.
these toy companies have to pay a lot to Toho. So I assume
Yeah.
that affects the price quite a bit. Like buying just buying like Godzilla, like the price that they ask for like Godzilla like hot sauce or Godzilla whiskey or Godzilla sake, like whiskey I know about and hot sauce I know about, and it seems like it's like, man, this seems like it's being, the price is like way inflated. Is that just because Godzilla's on the label?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
IP licenses are expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael, go ahead.
So I was out and I'm listening and I'm like, I need to chime in. So
I've been lying this whole time.
No. So like the whole legacy sculptor, kind of going back to that, everybody's like, oh, they should get rid of Sakai and Wakasa and all these guys to make it cheaper or have another line separate. And I've reading some of these comments is somebody was saying like not every figure should have them attached, to make it so bloated. And it's just like first thing out there for everybody to understand, Sakai was the one who pitched this line in the very first place to ever exist.
His line. Yes.
It's his baby, it's his product. But he doesn't sculpt everything. There is a myriad of different sculptors out there, and the only time he sculpts something is when they name drop him. So if you go back to any of the descriptions, you can find them all on my website, or you can go to the Tamaji website. If you don't see his name attached to that, that's not sculpted by him. That's done by a whole different person. And just off top of my head that I can share with you guys that he didn't touch, Hidera, he didn't touch that. That was a different guy entirely. The Biollante figure, that was not done by him. Even MonsterX, that wasn't even done by him at all. There in those people that I'm mentioning right there, except for Biollante, those are people that aren't legacy sculptors. Those are just people that they found talent for and they had come in and sculpt those figures. MonsterX and Hidera are really good examples of that. And nobody knows who sculpted them. I know. I think Mike knows too. I posted that.
No, it was me. I sculpted it.
Yeah, there you go.
Right here.
I posted on Twitter though who sculpted because I found out and I got into contact with the guy and but sometimes in Japan the sculptors don't want their names to go out. So a good example, Yu-Gi-Oh line. Who's sculpting that? I asked about that for the SDC interview and they respectfully told me not to really go into detail that because they wanted to respect the sculptor's privacy. He didn't want his name out there. So, but my main question was, are these hand sculpted or are they digitally made? And so they confirmed that it was hand sculpted for these upcoming Yu-Gi-Oh figures. But they don't want or I should say that the sculptor doesn't want his name out there. And
that's Japan too. Sometimes the artists in Japan just don't
they want the privacy.
It's a little different than Western audiences like to view themselves. Creators and sets. They have a different sense of ego than we do.
Yeah. So in as far as when it comes to legacy sculptors, driving up the price, like I said, Sakai's been there since the beginning and the price has just gone up. It's not entirely just because of his sculpting fee or whatever. There's just so much more involved that people just aren't. There's surface level stuff and then there's the deep stuff. Everybody looks at the price and sculptors, possibly big names. That's why it's so high. But there's tooling, there's costs, there's Bandai as a whole giant company that handles this department. MonsterArts team R&D. There's just so much more involved that people really actually realize that go on there.
Yeah.
Go for Kyle.
Yeah. So this is gonna sound like a segue, but I want to pick up on what Michael's talking about here because I think that there is a really prominent there's a really prominent belief that people are looking at a price tag and they just assume it's like Bandai greed or it's Super 7 greed or it's whoever's greed, right? I think people need to realize how little. Even the people in this room, how little we know about the costs that go into making these things. And I would really love to give folks an example of this. Right now, there is legislation within Canada that is taxing basically every step that it takes to put a piece of a vegetable on a grocery store shelf anytime that there's carbon involved, it's getting taxed. And it's getting to the point where it is actually cheaper in Canada to import produce from Mexico than to sell produce that's grown here in Canada. And you could look at 2 tomatoes on a shelf at the grocery store, one that's grown in Canada, one that's grown in Mexico, and you could see, well, the one that's grown in Canada is more expensive. It's because the grocery store is being greedy, right? Like there's actually just so much going on behind the scenes. Like the grocery store doesn't want to charge more for that tomato. It makes no sense to charge more for that tomato, but they're being forced to do that. And so like, it sounds like a weird tangent, but like to Michael's point, there are so many things we're just not privy to, and the general customer is not privy to. At the same time, like I also understand that you don't. It's going to be really hard to educate customers when they just have that sticker shock, like that $140 -1 Godzilla. You know, there is a certain level of, I do think that the companies like need to anticipate that customers are not going to care about every little detail that goes in. But I also think that like folks should give a little bit more credit to how little they actually know about the process, and ourselves included, right? Like, you know, we
100%.
have a little bit more insider information, sure, but there's still so much. Like these things get made in a factory on the other side of the world. So to act like we even have an inkling of what goes on over there is a little bit misguided.
Sure. Okay.
100%. 100%.
All right. So that's getting into the next part of our discussion. As Hya versus SH MonsterArts, the price, the scaling, the articulation, and even the accuracy, I guess, if you want to say that too. Okay, so like the differences. I mean, there's a lot going on that's different. You know what I mean? And a big thing here is like the material as well. Okay, and but why? Okay, so why is it differently scaled? And you know, who wants to go with that first? I know you guys have a lot to say about that. Okay, Nathan, go ahead.
I'll jump in because I'm not too familiar with Hya because don't get them here. I've seen like weirdly enough they sell like the Alien vs Predator stuff, but obviously all the conversation we had previously with different IP rights, limit depending on the region. Now, for the price point for Hya and SH MonsterArts in particular, so that's one part I want to, I guess, comment on. So one big thing which when you're in the shop going to buy, you just see two products, right? You go, oh, that one's 50, this one's 100. Why? You know, they're both here in front of me. You pick it up. But if you break it down, we have two products which are similar, but the companies are in two different countries. So with MonsterArts, we're in Japan, which means it's a Japanese-based company using Japanese yen. So for raw materials, manufacturing costs, anything like with being made outside of Japan, there's going to be like conversions involved as well. Whereas a company that's based in that local country, they don't have to worry about the extra step, the extra fees which are associated with that, which will add up. As I think Mike was mentioning, there's so many small things like with those tariffs with the tomatoes, right? Every little step has an extra little value that adds on, which when you're in the shop, you're not thinking about that. You're seeing the price in front of you. Yeah. So this is one main point I was going to talk about with the next question, I think, with the old and the special color version. But with the price of yen difference now, what a Japanese-based company can buy for, say, $100 versus what a company in that country can buy for $100 is going to be quite different. And that's going to add to the price difference. And then Japan has some pretty good worker rights. We have nice health insurance. No overtime. For the most part, workers are treated well despite all the claims of people online, jumping into stereotypes. But, countries in, third world countries or, there's a lot of stuff which goes on, like with some of the factories as well, which, depending on the company paying, they will get different service, right? If one company demands, we need, proper work ethic from our employees, maybe they'll pay a bit more of a premium. Other companies are like, I don't care, just get it done as cheap as possible, and they'll get worked harder. So there's a lot of those factors which will come into and add to the cost as well if you have to pay employees more compared to another company. You know, yeah. I'll leave it for someone else to take up and go from that tangent, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, one of the other things it's like that. One of the things I like most about Hya is the fact that it's a 7-inch scale instead of a 6-inch scale. You got to remember, I first saw like the SH MonsterArts on display at New York Comic Con around 2000, like somewhere around 2011, and really nice display. And like, oh, they look good, but they just seem small. Because I like big Godzilla toys. That's why I have like this, like the Jack specific behind me here.
Mhm.
But just going from 6 inches to 7 inches, just that alone had me really excited. But so that's one of the main things. That's one of the main differences that really makes an impression on me.
Yeah. Okay. And you know, this has been forever discussed too about like why the SH MonsterArts Ghidorah doesn't look, it isn't, you know, film accurate, and the Hya is. I mean, well, number one, I mean, you know what I mean? Like Hya's had like a ton of time to work on their figure, you know what I mean? Like the movie's been done and things like that, you know what I mean? So like they got the final CG file and everything, you know what I mean? So like there's no more tweaking to that file or anything like that, you know what I mean? So that's a big advantage for them, you know what I mean? And you know, the materials too. I mean, like it's just a much more flexible, like I have that figure, and like just having it in hand is just much more flexible. Like if you see my photos, like, yeah, you can do way more with that, you know what I mean? But like you know, but with the SH MonsterArts, I mean, it's a lot stiffer and things like it's you know, for me personally, like as an artist, I've had you know, that SH MonsterArts Ghidorah, I've had a love-hate relationship with that figure because it's a pain in the butt to manage. But when I get that figure and I can do photography with it, like I always get great photos with that figure. But just to manage him is just a nightmare, you know. So that's just a thing. Yeah. Anybody else?
The Hya looks really nice. So I'd love to get my hands on it. Maybe you need to bring it over in your suitcase with you when you come over.
All right, I'll get you one. Don't worry. I'll get you one.
Yeah.
Harold, just to tag on, like the point that Hya is releasing a figure 5 years after the movies come out, like, so you have access to those files. Like it, I don't know why more people aren't bringing that up. Like Hya recently, I guess fairly recently, debuted their 2014 Godzilla 2014 figure. And like I'm seeing folks on Twitter being like, "Oh, this dunks on the NECA." The NECA came out 10 years ago. Like I would hope that a figure in 2024 dunks on a figure from. Otherwise, what's the point? If you're losing to a figure from 10 years ago, right? Like you should be ashamed. So, like, I'm astounded that point has made its waves. That like, why didn't the original? Why is Hya look accurate whereas the original Ghidorah didn't? Now, there's the comment in the chat that like MonsterArts they did the special color version after the movie came out, but they didn't correct any of the sculpt. And I actually think that's I think that we're planning to talk about it, but I do think that that's a good conversation to have. Like, you know, why didn't that happen?
Yeah.
Maybe not now, but I think that it's worth talking about.
Yeah, so like I mean, Hya is able to correct their sculpts, but not you know what I mean, and like fast, you know what I mean. Like 9 months later, they corrected the sculpt, you know what I mean, which is incredible, you know what I mean. But like, you know, but with SH MonsterArts, it's not, you know what I mean. Like they, like for the Ghidorah figure, like they really corrected nothing in terms of the sculpt, you know what I mean. So like I don't have the special color version, so I can't speak on that in things like, but in terms of the sculpt at the time, like I still like looking at my figure and things, even though like I know it's in my head. Yes, it's not accurate, but like I'm still able to get great photos from that, from that figure. But like, you know what I mean? Like they change nothing, you know what I mean? So I don't know. That is for me a fair criticism. So yeah. Anybody else?
I guess
it might. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to add, like when you mentioned about the high updating the sculpt for that one, I guess yeah they did, but also was it already planned in advance? Like we also don't know what was happening behind the scenes. Like just what we see doesn't mean we only get a small part of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that them being Chinese, being a Chinese-based company or China-based company or being Chinese means they have that close relationship. You know, don't know, maybe they're affiliated with other companies there, so they maybe get priority or they are able to push through or speed up that process. They don't need to translate documents. They don't need to go back and forth. Okay, here's the prototype, make the mold. Okay, give us the sample. Let's check back and forth. They can just maybe go right in and knock on the door, or at least they have the access, which will speed up the process so much and reduce costs. They don't have to ship back and forth. So
yeah,
that's pretty much what I was going to say. It's that, and also that again, it could be that Legendary hasn't requested something to be changed at all, and maybe Legendary is the one that approves all these things to get made. Since it's a Legendary monster, it's not necessarily Toho. Yes, it's a Ghidorah, but it's also a Legendary Ghidorah. Like there are so many different factors. It's not as simple as just because it's a Godzilla monster, it's all under Toho. Like there are really, and it could be exactly what Nathan said, is that since it's Legendary, the communication is going to Los Angeles, Burbank, and it's a Chinese company, they might have a little bit of a different workflow, but then with Japan, they might have a different workflow and communication system and translating and all of this stuff. So it's not as black and white.
Sure.
Simple as that.
Okay.
Yeah. Just kind of going back to, the beginning of it all, just so I see this being brought up all the time, and people kind of go back and forth between how, the King of the Monsters figures were made. And just so for clarity's sake, when they made King of the Monsters figures, they were making it alongside with production, and it was well documented everywhere that production was changing everything literally up until like a week before the actual release date in theaters. So with Bandai and Tamashi Nations working on the figures at the same time, they were giving what was CGI data at the time, and some of it was partial. Like it wasn't 100% complete. Like it was like concept art. Sometimes it was reference materials, and that's kind of where King Ghidorah fell into when it came to production. And there's a really great interview that's over there on, if anybody owns the Japan release of King of the Monsters deluxe set that came with the poster Godzilla, there is a whole SH MonsterArts segment in there, and Wakasa's in there who sculpted King Ghidorah, and he even mentions in there that he didn't have everything was largely unfinished, so he worked with another guy to basically come up with their idea, and they presented that to Legendary and the director, and at the time they approved it. They said, yeah, this is good, this is so cool, go ahead, do it. And that's where we got King Ghidorah in the form that it was for SH MonsterArts. And it's the same thing. If we go back further, the 2014 Godzilla, this goes back to what we were talking about with, Japan and California talking to each other. Yuji Sakai basically sculpted the 2014 Godzilla from the ground up using various reference materials, trailers. He didn't get to see the movie at all to reference what Godzilla was going to look like. So it was a very stylized attempt in his first sculpt ever of the character. So that's why it turned out the way it did for that. And then, for Mothra and Rodan, those were the same thing. It's unfinished CG. I mean, Mothra is literally based off the concept art and the colors and everything. Rodan didn't have the fire effects that were on the wings, and that may have been something that was with the reference materials that they were given originally for that model.
Yeah.
And it, same thing for the Godzilla versus Kong. When we fast forward a little bit more, everybody brings up mold degradation and all that stuff. And I keep telling everybody this because this is what I've been told. It isn't mold degradation between the 2019 sculpt and the 2021 version. There is literal mold changes. They actually updated the mold to allow for better articulation between those figures. And that is the mold that has been consistently been used for Legendary releases. Now, when it comes to feedback, everybody is saying, oh, we've been complaining about the head sculpt. Why hasn't it been updated? And I want to just put that question to everybody is, where have you been complaining at? Where have you been sending your feedback about those complaints? Because up until Hya came into the game, everybody was very much in praise of MonsterArts' legendary Godzilla representation. So up until that point, Tamashii, I don't know exactly what they're thinking, but I can surmise that they're going, hey, this is a banger product. This looks great. There's no reason to change what we're doing. Enter Hya. Now the voices have gotten louder and saying, hey, you know what? MonsterArts is definitely inaccurate now. So, and the way that Bandai works, we're like they're working a year or to a year and a half ahead of schedule. They've already got it.
Most of the time.
There you go. 2 years. Yeah. So everything that's coming in criticism now, they've already got everything baked in play. Like, I guarantee you the Godzilla versus Kong or the Godzilla X Kong figures that we got, they didn't change that just because it's just too late to change those things. And to get those out, you have to also think about who are those really marketed to. We know that Evolved Godzilla's in there. We know that Kong has some updates to his fur length and all that, longer beard and stuff. But who are these figures really geared towards? Is it to the core collector or is it to the mass audience at the same time? And just because they're releasing these guys doesn't mean that they're not doing Evolved Godzilla or Beast Glove Kong later as well. So,
which are going to be new sculpts. Those will be new sculpts,
exactly.
Which is that point we brought up earlier. It's a new tooling, and it's cost money to do that.
Exactly. I think this is a really good thing and a good example of Bandai listening to us, because up until this point, Bandai has been doing legendary monster figures the same time as production has been going along, and the result of that is stylized versions of those figures, right?
Sure.
Well, now we're in a position, hypothetically, we don't know yet until we see it, but we're in a position where we may actually get legit CG versions, finalized versions of these characters in the SH MonsterArts line.
Yeah.
So, one last thing.
Go ahead.
Mechagodzilla is the only figure in the line to use finished CGI data. That's the only figure in the legendary MonsterArts figures that that is actually using finished CGI data. And look at it; it looks like aside from any issues in there, the sculpt, the way it looks, that is spot on, and that shows just how good SH MonsterArts can also do these figures if given the opportunity. So I think I want to be positive and be optimistic in this, that they're taking that feedback that we've been giving them and steering away a little bit more from the stylized look and letting these figures wait for that CGI data to come in to actually work on these things the right way.
Yeah, like another thing too, like I'm surprised, like when we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'm surprised that like when SH MonsterArts announced their figures, and everybody was in an uproar. Like I'll admit I was like, huh, too, you know what I mean? But like, I'm surprised that people didn't think that the Evolved Godzilla wasn't on the way also, and Beast Glove Kong wasn't coming. Like the way people reacted seemed like we're not getting those figures when really we are, you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? And also too, like another thing, I mean, how likely is that mold that we have now for the legendary Godzilla, it's probably going to get discontinued once that Evolved Godzilla arrives. Won't that, isn't that true? Like, I don't see that, getting more life out of that sculpt after Evolved Godzilla arrives. Is that,
it's kind of hard to say, Harold, honestly, because there's I think as far as looking as for just a regular version of that character, I don't think we're going to see that ever again. That's why we're seeing variants. I think this mold in particular, I mean, again, take the core collector out of it, this is very appealing to the mass everybody sees that and they're like, it's a legendary Godzilla. They don't even thinking about it's legendary Godzilla. They just look, hey, that's that new Godzilla in that movie, and they're grabbing it off the shelf. And that's why we're seeing it so often in there, because they wouldn't keep. Bandai's not a dumb company in this aspect, that they will not continue to sell a product that doesn't sell. If it doesn't sell, they're going to stop. This is why this is why we don't see Alien and Predator MonsterArts figures anymore. They didn't perform well. Now we don't see them in the line anymore.
Which bums me out, because that's an Alien and Predator shelf. Like, wait, right there. I can't even point. Right there, right there. That's my Alien and Predator shelf, and I want more of those.
Yeah,
let's see right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, Aliens and Predators right there. I want more of those.
And to further that too, everybody's like, why do we not get so much Showa? Well, remember when the first Showa figure came out, there was a lot of criticism on the size some questionable articulation engineering, like a triangle seam up the sides and everything, that could have impacted the reason why you didn't see so much Showa after that, because of that strong, that they screwed it up. They had one job kind of thing, and they listened to that. People don't think that they listen. They listen to that negative feedback, and they react to that too. So I think it's important what Kyle said, or somebody said it earlier. Criticism is necessary, but be nice about it. You know, if you're being a dick about it, if you're being somebody that's just gonna, screw you, go to hell kind of thing, it's not helpful. It's not helping them understand
that.
Like
companies don't want to listen to that.
That's a point that it really hurts me when I talk to Kyle about it, because from Super 7, because I know it bothers him more than he's letting on, because he wants to maintain his profession, but like I know it bums him out when people are dogging on the Super 7 stuff. And oh my gosh, the guy in the comments, you can have your fair criticism of the figures, but just don't be an asshole about it. Like
it's your tone.
Behind it.
Yeah,
it's your tone.
Yes.
It's like, if you were talking to someone in real life, would you speak to them this way?
You would never.
Or would you want to be spoken to this way? Like, why would anybody want to take the criticism if you're being spoken to about it? And maybe it's because some of us have experience with. I went to art school and have been taught like constructive criticism. It's burned in my brain, and I know that not everybody can handle it. But there's also a way that you do it so it doesn't hurt, or it doesn't feel mean, or it's not you're angry. There is a way to do it because you care and you want it to be better. And by doing it kindly, you can get that stuff done. Like
and people will listen more if it's presented that way. If it's presented
don't be a jerk.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised I survived.
No, but from what
I don't know if you guys saw all those comments on all of my social media, on all those when I first posted those pictures. Oh my god.
But some of what folks were saying earlier reminded me. It's like another hardship of the toy companies is the gamble they're taking as to whether or not the movie is going to be popular. So I think whether or not we keep seeing Pink Godzilla, I think it'll probably depend on how well what the reaction is to the movie. So I'm hoping it's going to be a very fun movie.
Yeah, but, and that's why we didn't get the
some. But there's been like some major like Hollywood like releases that just like ended up not being these big flops that no one went to see. And then I felt so bad for all the toy companies that had like just like filled the shelves with the toys for them that no one that no one cared about.
Just going. I think we've got a question about this coming up soon. I can't remember, but there's a question about the evolved of a pink Godzilla, right? One thing, like I think maybe this is more from new collectors not understanding either Bandai or MonsterArts line in general, but they don't spoil stuff, right? Same if you go back to the last movie, we had Godzilla, Kong. That was announced. As soon as the movie was released in Japan, it came out in America first, so that doesn't matter, but in Japan, because it's a Japanese company, then they announce Mecha Godzilla, because people know about it. They're not spoiling it for their fans.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Shin Godzilla, you have the base form, the real basic one. And then once the movie is out, the different versions. So this situation, maybe the pink one wasn't going to be in the trailer, or maybe they just want to be a bit more kinder. The base version of Godzilla Kong that you know is going to be in it, base version, normal one, cool. Announce, release, have it come out with a movie so people can go buy it. Anything else that's coming, the other, we've Playmates, American companies spoil the shit out of everything. But once it's out, we will get those announcements if they're making a figure for it. It's not like they're waiting to see, is it going to work? Sometimes it is a case like Heisenberg saying, like with some companies, but for this would be, once it's out in Japan, end of April, I'm sure we'll get the announcement. Like Mecha Godzilla will be like probably premium Bandai, because only the hardcore collectors, which is us, basically, people commenting, they'll be buying it will be smaller. That's what I think. So
yeah. To echo to that, like marketing for a movie is not the same as marketing for an action figure. They are often cutting trailers just sometimes weeks or even a month or two in advance before they release
Correct.
it. These
Yeah.
toys have been in production for like 2 years now, and they have a marketing plan and they have that locked down. They've probably had that locked down for years now. So
Mhm.
with this trailer that just came out a month or two ago, they may not have even seen that until days before it came out themselves, like some of the toy companies, you know. So we like, they don't have full, they like to keep secrets is what we're saying here. Yeah.
Yes.
So just coming back to the original question about that as well, what you're saying, Mike's Monster, for the inaccuracy of the original Kingdom of Monsters Geared Order. Now, I've spoken with them quite a bit about not just this, but other stuff as well. And as we know, they work on these figures for like a year, 2 years in advance. They're told, this is what it looks like, this is how it's going to be. I was at Tokyo Comic Con in 2018 when it was first revealed. And that's what it was, the Earth color. And this is what it's going to be. The movie didn't come out for another 6 or 7 months after that. I think it was like May 2019, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they had already committed, had sign off from the license holders that this is what it looks like, this is the color. Earthy gray, earthy, brown, whatever it is, that's the colors. It's not shiny gold. So, obviously, that probably would have been changed later on, but it's too late for them. They can't change it without cancelling, probably losing a lot of money, right? So I think that's one point that a lot of people don't think about, is that everything's signed off, agreed, and confirmed by the IP holders, license holders, well in advance. And that's the benefit of new companies like Hya that come in where it's already out. They can take the feedback, what people liked and didn't like about other companies, incorporate it into make their version, which is cool. So yeah, that's one of the downsides of being early or being right on release compared to coming later.
Mhm.
Right.
And I think that attributes to Hya's success right now is that they're so well after the movie. They have the reference material. They have the ability to make it look as good as it is,
Yeah.
And that comes with that. So it looks great. Nobody's denying it. Nobody here in this panel will tell you that Hya's figures that look like crap. They're not going to say that. We all agree with that.
Yeah.
It's 100%. It's valid. But we're also not going to shit on MonsterArts as well, because there's a history. There's a reason why these things look the way that they look like. And to demand better, I think, is fair. This is 100%. Demand better. Ask for better. Don't demand it, but ask for better.
Yeah.
Actually, one more point that I'm so bad at remembering names. So Mike, Kaiju, Kyle, sorry, my bad.
Yes.
You mentioned about Super 7, and people. I see so many complaints about Super 7 products. They look awesome. I'm not going to pay that much for it, but I'm not their target audience.
Yeah.
But people that are into that, damn, they have some cool stuff. Just because you don't like something, or just because you can't afford it, doesn't mean you should be shitting on something.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
here, let me show you.
Cool.
Okay. They did this Ultimate Shogun Godzilla.
Yeah.
The recreation of the original. I think this is the first American-made Godzilla toy, right? The Mattel one. Used to be that big. Okay. Many folks will look at this and say, this should not be $55.
Yeah.
But for me, I didn't even have the original toy. I just have this in hand, and I'm just so in love with it. It's so much fun. There's so much character to it. And I totally get why some folks are like, that's not for me. Totally on board, right?
Yeah.
But when it extends into like, this shouldn't exist, like, get over yourself a little bit, right? Like, just why can't you just move on? Like, why? Like, when movies come out in theaters, you don't go around being like, that movie sucks, that movie sucks. You go see the movies you like, and the rest you just move on.
Exactly.
I guess people are just very impassioned about it.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, yeah.
Kyle, this movie shouldn't exist.
Yeah, apparently.
Right? It doesn't exist. They should lose a license. They should never make it. This is total BS.
Yeah, like vote with your dollar, obviously, but also like, not everything has to be for you. Nobody goes to the Super 7 website and looks at the glassware or the shirts and says these things are trash. Literally nobody does that. But as soon as it's an action figure or a toy, it's World War III. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
Like jumping into something like different, like the soft beat. I'm not a huge collector, but I picked up a couple. Like this was probably like the same price as the recent -0 MonsterArts.
Yeah.
No,
These things are pretty expensive. Yeah.
But handmade, small, tiny Japanese company, right? Same with like Super 7. They're a tiny company doing something that they love. So supporting these small companies that are making something that they're passionate about is good. Not everyone's cup of tea. No one's really going to be, not everyone is into that stuff. But that just means it's not for you, so you shouldn't really be shitting on it. It's like with the, coming back around, like every figure line is made for a target audience, and that's what they're targeting. MonsterArts, I feel, is like the super, not articulate, super sculpted, as close to kind of like suit movie accurate as they can, that looks nice, that can articulate, that looks awesome on your shelf. It's like your literally personal representation of your idoled monster on your shelf that you can have. Maybe Hya is going from a more articulated sense. NECA, I feel like, was a close movie representation of a toy that you can play with. Like,
yes.
At least in my experience with like American toys, they're more like, play, smash, woo. Like as a kid, maybe not to the extreme, but more delicate, but that's more of a target audience. And then like I feel like Hya is kind of like the in between, because maybe people want bigger, they want more articulation to play with, but I feel like MonsterArts in that sense, they're not really for playing.
Yeah.
Like as toy photographers, maybe we'll play for more than what most people really will. They'll take it out. This is cool.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, there's a technical finesse to it with the MonsterArts figures, and like I know I see everybody, posting, oh well, if I look at the figure, it falls apart. I mean, they'll do that, and that's not something new with this line. This line, and I'm sure other lines that deal with ball joints, like the Figuarts, or I don't know. I mean, I don't collect them per se, but I would imagine that they all have those similar issues with that because of just the nature of the product. That's just how it's designed. And I think it's easy for us to go, well, look at Hya, look at NECA, those figures don't fall off. But at the same time, they're engineered differently to do different things. They can't mimic what a MonsterArts can do for what MonsterArts can when it fails, when it falls apart or falls over, like you're not going to get that with those other figures because they're just made differently for probably a cheaper cost than what a MonsterArts would be able to as well.
Yeah.
Also on there, like, is it also just due to people's expectations? One example. So I'm a big collector of Figuremaniataiwan as well, especially Dragon Ball stuff, like old stuff. But there's companies that make bootlegs or third party. Some of them are like maybe their own sculpt, new ones. And people are like, I'll drop $100 on that. Even if it kind of breaks, it isn't the best quality, they're not complaining. Because subconsciously they know that's not going to be the great. It gets great quality, they're expecting issues, so they don't mind when it happens, so they don't complain. But then that's the expectation from an official product that has to be perfect. So any little wee small thing, then they're judging it higher. Even with price point, is it the same with like the higher stuff? Like do they expect it to be like cheaper or less quality? So therefore, when they do see something, oh no, it's too expensive, it's cheaper. It's Chinese company opposed to Japanese company or American company. So I think that like mentality that probably people have, even if it's subconscious, probably does play a big part. And then quantity as well. How much higher selling compared to MonsterArts, versus NECA before Super 7. If there's only 1,000 higher versus 10,000 MonsterArts, maybe the percentage of issues is the same, but there'll be more reported ones just from the sheer number of being sold, right? So that may be skewing people's opinions or what they think is high quality or not.
Cool.
Yeah. I see some really quick. I see somebody in the comments, saying, when you were holding up those the smaller figures like Kyle, what you were holding up, and Nathan, that these type of figures shouldn't be as expensive as these super stylized ones in the first place. And I think this kind of goes back to the Super 7 interview that you had. If they're not producing a lot of quantity of these things, and if the targeted demo is going to be smaller, that's why you're seeing the price for these things go so much higher. Like Super 7's $85 for those Ultimates they're not probably producing, I'm going to wager this, but I'm pretty sure that they're not producing MonsterArts levels of product, and that's why it's And that's why that cost has been decided. And it's also what, 10 inch scale. I think that's what it was, right? They're pretty big. So
yeah, they're 8-inch scale. Their Destoroyah to the top of the horn is just under 10 inches.
Yeah.
If you look at their Godzillas, they're comparable to the MonsterArts. The MonsterArts is typically like $10 to $20 more. But if you look like the new Space Godzilla from MonsterArts and Super 7's Space Godzilla went up for order at the same time. At least here in Canada, the Space Godzilla from MonsterArts is twice the cost. It cost me twice as much to get that MonsterArts. So I think that there are pricing expectations which are being brought up, but I think that I'm being mindful that of the audience that might be watching the conversation, but I just think that there's just this lack of understanding of what goes into the cost of these things. Like people will go down the aisle at Target. I don't have Target in Canada, but they'll go down the aisle in Target and they'll see like a $25 Marvel Legend and think, why can't my MonsterArts be closer to that? Or why can't my Super 7 be closer to that? It's because they're not making 100,000 Jet Jaguars, 100,000 Heteras. Like Super 7, I think they're in the 4 digits, maybe barely. They're making a couple thousands of these. That's why your prices are high.
Yeah. I was gonna say I see a comment here saying, then I don't know if this is geared at MonsterArts, but make those figures larger and worth the money. If it was MonsterArts and they were the size, like the standard Godzilla was a 10-inch size Godzilla, you better believe that would be like what, a $300, $400 Godzilla figure, it's very surface level to think that way for that kind of thing. And it's the same thing with the Super 7, like make it bigger, even larger. Like if that little small one that you had, that Shogun, make it even bigger. It still doesn't matter how big you make it, because they're making so few of them, they have to make up the cost for manufacturing versus what they think might actually sell.
Okay, so this one specifically, if you want a bigger one, they made the Mechagodzilla in the same style that original Shogun was.
Sure.
And it cost $400 US. That would cost me 650 Canadian dollars. So
yeah,
like
there you go.
It's just
a great example.
We have to talk about the fact we're in a boutique hobby. We're in a niche topic. Like the fact that we get anything made is a goddamn miracle, and we just fight each other over it. It's so ungrateful. It drives me crazy.
Well, it's just crazy to think, I think we're all within this age group, all of us here in this chat and everything on this panel, that we all grew up where there was nothing, hardly anything for us to get. And now there's so much. I'm just thinking about this the other day. If I was born recently and this is what I grew up into collecting, like Godzilla toys, I'm in heaven. Like this is like amazing. If I had this opportunity to have Hya, NECA, Super 7, all of these things. I grew up with Trendmasters. That was it. And Imperial Godzilla. That's all I had. That's all I could get. I didn't even know anything about importing, taking things from Japan because I was a freaking kid. So
my mom did that for me.
There you go. And I think younger folks that are now enjoying these things, I think it's very easy for everybody to look at that and say, well, why is it that product there, this price, and that one over there is that price? That doesn't make sense to me. I think it's easy to do that. It's not a fault entirely to that individual, but that's why we're having this panel today. This is why we wanted to talk about this, was in hopes that the people that watch this today takes what we're saying and just kind of spread that to other people that may, have that toxic behavior, or just maybe just don't know, and just like, hey, this is the reason why. Because more conversations that have this, the more education people get, the more understanding it is, and the less toxic people will get, I think. I think when we all come from a place of understanding, I guarantee, Mike, you actually mentioned this earlier when we first brought you on, that you mentioned that you were kind of like that guy that was online that would just like, blah, 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 kind of thing. But then you start working for the company and you have a newfound appreciation now knowing
I used to be the guy that yelled at NECA every time Randy tweeted. Like, I don't know if anybody purchases NECA figures, but I collect Ninja Turtles, and they would announce these new Ninja Turtles figures, and they would only put one in a Walmart in a 50-mile radius, and that was the only way to get it. So I was the guy going into the tweets being like, yo, Randy, what the F? I want my toys. I want my Ninja Turtles. And then eventually I started working at Bandai after some time and started asking some of these kind of questions behind the scenes, and then started being educated, being told, here's why. And sometimes the truth is not as easy to swallow. It's just what it is. Sometimes the costs are what they are. They are licensing costs. There are costs of materials. There are costs of this and that. Sometimes it is because a company is based in Burbank, California, and they're trying to talk to a Japanese company, and the sculpts are inaccurate because of that. There are so many things. And there are people in the comments that I've seen have been in this chat for a while now who are asking comments or asking questions about things we have already been talking about in this chat.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're just choosing not to hear some of the answers, and you might not like what you're hearing. Yeah, but I think some of them
have been here for a bit.
Yeah. But what I'm saying here is you take this information and you choose to do with it what you want. Like, unfortunately, you don't have to like it, but these are the honest truths. And that's not shilling. That's not us coping or anything here. These are people who have worked with the companies. We are just communicating the information. This is it. We're also not the companies either. I used to work for the company. Michael is not the guy who makes all those figures down there. The articulation series is not Bandai. So like we are also here just collectors as well. And we also do criticize. We do. But I found my criticisms kind of they didn't go away. They just kind of adjusted after I learned a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. It's okay not to like things.
Yeah. I don't always agree.
Yeah.
I don't always agree with Bandai, and I work with them.
Yeah, I'm glad that we are getting some mass market toys from Playmates and now from Jada that are in like Walmart and Target, so that where those actually can be cheaper because they're making so many of them. And yeah, especially as I'm very excited about the I haven't seen it in person yet, but the Jada remote control.
That looks so cool. That took me back to my childhood right there.
Oh yeah,
I saw that thing and I was just like, I used to own an Imperial Godzilla that walked and had smoke and everything. It's that, but modernized.
Yeah, I got a really funny story about that. I was at Target the other day, and I haven't seen one in person until the other day with my girlfriend. And my car was stolen, so I can't go toy hunting or anything. So I'm like, can we go to the toy? Oh, don't worry about it. Thank you. I was like, can we go to the toy aisle so I can have my little dopamine hit? Yeah. And so we see the new Godzilla X Kong toys, and I see the remote control Godzilla, and there's this little Asian woman kind of messing with it and like looking at it. I'm like, oh, I'll let her look at it. And she sees me glance at it, and she does one of these, like she looks at me, she's just like puts it in her cart and just goes away. And as she's going around the corner, she looks at me one more time, like,
you were gonna take it.
I was just gonna look at it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's
it's my Godzilla.
This is such a
Yeah, the sad thing is that like the number of these, like how hard it can be to find these on the shelves.
Yes.
There's like a lot of people buying them to try to resell them.
Yeah.
Because they actually finally hit. I'm in New England, where again a lot of these products will like arrive from overseas in California, and it takes quite a while for a truck finally to arrive in New England with them. So one local collector I know that I'm friends with. So so finally he like started seeing them in the stores the day they started like being put on the shelves at Target. He found them and he's like, and he got the bug. It's like, okay, I want all of them. I want that complete set. And he's been driving all around like every Target, every Walmart within like 100-mile radius, it seems. And he says like his experience is like that if he comes up like one day late, if he shows up at a store one day late, the shelves are already cleaned out. That people are just snagging these things up. And then on eBay, there's like huge lists of them. There's tons of people trying to sell these on eBay. And I remember when the Playmates Mechagodzilla came out with Godzilla versus Kong, one guy posted, posted how his cart that he had like gone to Walmart and bought every single Mechagodzilla, Playmates Mechagodzilla, and bragging about it, but also saying it's like, hey, I got them all, so it's like you can buy them from me, you can buy them from me. I'm going to put them up for sale. And man, it's like people were like not at all happy about that.
Yeah, that's
So
I remember.
I hope he still
when
has them.
When Hya came on the scene with their first Godzilla, and like that figure was getting sculpts up to wazoo, and then 9 months later, like I was like, "Ha, good sculptors, idiots." Yeah. Anyways, moving on to the next part. So, in what ways we kind of covered this, I think, already, right? In what ways did Hya meet and fail customer expectations? Do we need to keep going with this one or just move to the next one?
I think we can go
I
on.
think we can
I think
move
we
on.
talked about it.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Okay.
Ghidorah's
So
a dead horse at this point.
yeah. Okay. What about this one? So why was the Ghidorah special color version more expensive than the first release? Did we talk? Did we cover that one?
I don't think
No,
so.
I don't think so.
really.
well,
Okay.
I think everything's more expensive these days because from inflation.
Sure.
Sadly.
Well, there's also the premium Bandai nature of it too. You know, the first release was a general release, and the next one was a premium Bandai. You don't know how much product is going to be made. It's all made to order. So there's, like, I know I mentioned it as the premium Bandai tax, but you know, Nathan kind of chimed in and like, go ahead, Nathan. Actually, you go for it.
Okay, sorry, sir. Yeah, I still kind of disagree with the text part there for this one, but so
Yeah.
I get asked about this quite a bit. Actually, I've discussed it quite a bit with different people about the pricing, and as most of you, well, all you guys are overseas, like Harold's the closest to me. He understands a bit more, but I think most people that are complaining about this online really don't understand the situation overall for Japan, essentially. So first off, the first one came out in 2019. So then after 2019, what happened? Corona hit. And then from Corona, we have massive shipping and logistics issues and cost increase there.
Yeah.
After that period, we have subtle inflation in most countries. We don't feel it too much in Japan. It's pretty good. But America, definitely, you guys have quite big inflation, right? And there's all these fuel issues from what I saw online. And then after that, as Corona's easing, boom, we go and Russia invades Ukraine, which you think, why does it relate to figures? Well, Ukraine produces quite a bit of stuff and a lot of countries buy from them. So now a lot of costs are increasing everywhere, which again increased inflation. And then after there was something else as well. But anyway, so there's a couple of massive factors there. And then the US increased or did something with their financial stuff, which then drastically affected the difference in the yen versus US dollar price. So the Japanese yen really crashed hard. It's like at the worst it was 150 yen to $1, and I think it's back there now. So what that has meant over the last 2.5, 3 years, especially in Japan, prices have been increasing for everything, which is really uncommon in Japan. Like prices just stable. Tax increase from 5. Okay, for the overall running for SH MonsterArts increase, we have to go back. Tax was 5% when I first came, like 2010 before, then 8% and now 10%. So that's increased prices a little bit, but for the most part, companies didn't increase prices of products too much with that. It was very minimal. But the drastic difference from 2019, the special color version Ghidorah, is one came before Corona and all these changes, and one came after. So now a company in Japan that is buying raw materials, the amount that they get for the same value point is a lot less. Manufacturing costs are now costing them a lot more. So because this, every figure has gone up in price, not just MonsterArts, but
across the board.
Re-releases for Figuremaniataiwan as well. Once they came out, re-release now and then an extra 2,000 yen more. Same for other products in Japan is simply the cost that is, their base manufacturing cost has increased that much that they now have to increase the price. And then I've got the special color version now, wrong side. Oh, no.
Right behind you.
Right? So that's the special color version. Yeah, so I picked it up. It's awesome. I like it. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I've got them displayed. No issues. And that's how most of these figures are used, right? If I pose it as a pain, it will look cool. So overall, still happy. If I wanted to really play on lots, the high would be cool. But the price point, yeah, that's why they've increased in Japan for everything is a lot of external factors. And I think people feel like these companies are making lots of money on products. I think they'd be probably pretty shocked to learn they don't make much money per. Their profit is very minimal.
There's a lot of overhead from Bandai.
Oh yeah, even Playmates. Playmates is a publicly traded company, so they they're with stock, so they post their financial reports. And for many years in recent years, they were losing money. They were in the red, and so they actually were very excited with Godzilla versus Kong that those toys sold so well. I think that's one thing that they finally were able to make a small profit. But yeah, no, they've been there's been a lot of they've been struggling.
Cool.
Yeah. And just really quick, I kind of wanted to answer this. A lot of people are saying, why didn't they take the time to update the sculpt, between the original King Ghidorah and this one? There was time
and
after
also
that,
put
right?
The articulation in the wings. People.
Yeah, sure. In general, why wasn't there an update besides more than the paint? I did an interview with them. It's posted on my website. You guys can read it. I think it was 2021 or 2020. I can't remember what. I think it was 20. It's one of the 20s interviews that I did at SDCC, and he said that the reason why it came out in the first place was because of the outcry that people wanted a gold Ghidorah. That's why it existed in the first place. There wasn't so much criticism, however, on the look of the figure compared to what was seen in the movie. So that's why we got a special color and no changes to the actual sculpt or any additional articulation engineering after the fact. And you have to remember that, these guys work 1.5 to 2 years ahead of us. So this came out January 1st, 2022 in Japan. Go back 2 years ago. When was this already in production? Pretty shortly after the first one was already released. They already started it already, in the concept phases of all that. So that's where we're at with that. And, I asked them, because during our interview, I even showed them pictures of the spiral Ghidorah and the Ghidorah on film. And I was saying, hey, this is what it looks like in the movie. Is there a chance that you will revisit this in the future? And the answer was, it depends on demand. It depends on feedback. And if there's a space for it, we can, but there's not a guarantee that we'll go back and revisit sculpts like this. To say that they're not listening to us, though, about those kind of issues, let's fast forward to Gamera 1999 Kyoto version. What happened with that? The original came out, everybody, even in Japan, they were attacking that thing's sculpt, specifically the head. WTF, what is going on? They got that loud and clear. They changed the head for that. But if you look at the rest of the figure, the rest of it is the same as the original 1999 Gamera figure. It's only the head that was changed. So that's an example of them moving forward and changing that aspects. But for Ghidorah, this isn't a simple head change. They would have to redo the entire sculpt. I'm not saying that they won't do it, that they couldn't do it justified, but at the same time, they're looking at the feedback for their current Ghidorah and they're going, does the demand for an accurate MonsterArts Ghidorah exist right now? Based off of the previous feedback and all these other factors.
Also, just to add on to that, I'm pretty sure the most general people that might have picked up, they probably don't give a F about the color. That's different. They don't care it's gold. They're not. If that was the case, they wouldn't have bought it in the first place. The only people that really care are the hardcore collectors.
Exactly.
So that means if in the first place they sold like 10,000, random number pulled out my ass. So now maybe people that really want the gold ones, maybe only 1,000. So they're making a fraction of what they did before. They're probably not making money on it. They're only probably doing it for those fans.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one benefit of like Premium Bandai and other services like that as well. They don't feel about other costs associated with maybe shipping to retailers or their card as well. They can do these like fan service releases, and you see this quite a bit with their other lines as well, like Saint Seiya. They've released these random characters that no one will buy except for maybe those 5 hardcore people that want that one random character that popped up in the background and that one scene that's become iconic for whatever reason.
I mean, Dragon Ball. You've got Dragon Ball's the same. You've got a million P Bandai Dragon Ball figures behind you. There's you've got a few of them up there like that. There's some figures that people say they want, but they don't realize that not everybody wants them.
I did a whole video on this about how people like, everyone would buy a Gabara. No, not everyone wants a Gabara.
Yeah.
Harold, I want to address a comment really quick in the
Sure.
chat right here.
Go for it.
They're specifically talking about, that they wish that they would reissue some of the special color Shin figures, like the Awakening version. I'm assuming that's what they mean by that, because they're something to keep in mind. And a lot of new collectors don't know this. Any figure that's got that P Bandai label on there, they treat that as its own specific release, never to be reissued as it is ever again. And that's kind of what makes it a unique collectible, in why they call it premium Bandai, right? You only get it once. Bandai, as we've learned though, has their own loophole where they do alternate versions, they do alternate colors. So you have to think about what can we do for the Awakening Shin Godzilla. If they ever wanted to redo that one again, they can't do it the exact same way. It has to change. Something has to change so it's not the same as the original figure. So a valid point to bring up, if you were to see that again, they could do what they did like with Night Combat Godzilla, Shin Godzilla. That uses all translucent parts, different kind of paints and everything. That would be a way to reissue that figure, but to get the exact same Awakening figure, it's never going to happen. You're never going to see that one on the market ever again. So if you're hoping to get that exact same figure, you should probably try to get it as soon as possible, or wait until maybe another release or repackage comes out later in the line. Because when those come out, there is a little bit of an aftermarket hit, with that we see with some of these figures. So that's just my advice for that situation, if anybody's wondering out there.
Cool. Alrighty.
It's interesting, the psychology of it too. That it seems like people are much more interested in things that are rare and scarce. So I think a lot of these companies intentionally try to like make things rare and scarce, like when it comes out, so that people there will be more interest in it. And then of course they have to preserve that. If they later end up like making more, then then you're going to like upset a lot of the collectors. But yeah, I see this in like lots of other products too, like in whiskey. Like I've not so much lately, but in the past I would buy whiskey because there's like a really good liquor store that specializes in whiskey near me. But it's like after a while it was like, okay, everything was rare. It's like every single thing that they like presented and tried to sell to us, it's like, oh, this is rare, and this other thing is also rare, and this third thing is rare. And it's like after a while it's like, well, after a while I was like, it's like, well, they can't, it's like it didn't have as much impact on me. But yeah, that's part of the excitement. But I think that's part of the excitement of collecting, is to try to like be poised and ready for that rare thing, when the rare thing does come along, to try to pounce on it.
Sure.
I mean, it's just the nature too. It's like, these are collectibles. They're not kids' toys.
Yeah.
That just comes with the territory. You're collecting them to put somewhere else, and they increase in value when they become discontinued. It's just how the world works with these things,
Yeah.
Okay. I agree to an extent. I put up the video about Mondo. I think that if your stuff is selling out in 5 minutes, I think that's harmful to the hobby.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
For stuff like P Bandai, it's made to order and then it's done. Totally understand it, totally respect it. Okay, I have no problem with that. But other models where it's like, we made every release is 150 units, like you're just inviting the scalpers and the bots.
Yeah. See, I agree with that. Yeah.
So my big issue is with event exclusive or store exclusives. I think I would go nuts in the US. You get Target exclusive, Walmart exclusive.
I hate those. I'm here in Taiwan. I want some of those Batman figures, animated series releases from Target. Don't have them here in Taiwan. I want that. You know what I mean?
Don't have them in here in Canada either.
Like I can't order online because it's Target exclusive, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Yeah, like I'm also a big Transformers fan, like the original G1. So I think there's like a couple of Target exclusives for like the first episode, like anyway version. So I had to like ask my mate in the US, hey, if you're going to Target, can you check the toy aisle for this, mate? Can you? It's like, man, some of these things can get hard, and I understand.
Make it hard.
Yeah, from a company perspective, they probably don't really care about it, but those big Walmart, Target, they will go to them, hey, we sell your product, but for us to keep selling, maybe we want something exclusive just for us. So you have to make. So then there's all these like weird deals that go into making it as well. But in the long run, it means maybe people get more releases being sold in the store because they made these deals. it sucks in a lot of ways, but it's one of the issues now, I would guess, with the brick and mortar stores, right?
Yeah.
Like that space takes up, a lot of revenue in terms of like floor, square meters and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, companies are paying for that shelf space. I don't know if people realize that companies are renting that shelf space where the toys sit and hang. It's not just Target putting it there. They are being paid to put that there. And so companies like Bandai have like little sections they buy out, and those are theirs. So
oh wow.
Yeah, that's not exactly something I think a lot of people know.
Yeah. Cool. So let's move on to this. So does Hya Toys do a better job of acknowledging problems with their figures? We kind of touched this already too, but just to talk about it just a little bit before we move on to the next topic. So, I mean,
yes. Next question.
Next question. They do.
I think that's we've seen that they've heard the response and they've taken care of that stuff. I think we've already touched on this anyways, but if it's a smaller company, they're more willing to listen to you to get the product to sell.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty. So will Hya Toys surpass SH MonsterArts? Well, the thing though is, here's my I do believe that when it comes to the Monsterverse line, Hya excels. But again, why? It's because they've they've had more time to work on those, you know what I mean? Like Godzilla, Kong, and all that, you know what I mean? Like the Monsterverse has been going on for 10 years already, you know what I mean? And things, and SH MonsterArts was there from the beginning making those things, and like Hya came, much after that, you know what I mean? So but it's interesting to see because Hya did get the license to make the classic Godzilla, like if you guys recall that. So I don't know, it's interesting to see. But like the thing though is like, you know what, like again, it goes back to like vote with your dollar, you know what I mean? If you like something from a company and if you like that more, then get that, you know what I mean? So I don't know, I think there's a room for all this, you know what I mean? Like it's like, they're making that 91. I already have a 91 SH MonsterArts, and I love this guy very, very much. But I am curious to pick up that one, and like it's going to be bigger and things like that. You know what I mean? So like, you know what I mean? Like if you are able to get it, and if you want to get it, like, you know what I mean? Like you can diversify your collection. You don't have to stick with one collection. You know what I mean? Which is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah. I mean, just to answer the question that we see in front of us, will Hya Toys surpass MonsterArts? It's just, I think another way of looking at this answer is, if you were to take Hya Toys and SH MonsterArts and say that they both had the completed data files and they both looked identical, but SH MonsterArts has the edge on that detail sharpness versus Hya, would people gravitate towards MonsterArts more than Hya right now? Because I feel like it's more, the argument for Hya's success is more accuracy than it is functionality.
Sure.
Am I right?
Yes. So, like the SH MonsterArts, they move a little bit. They pose better. You know what I mean? And like the Hyas, they're smoother looking. You know what I mean? They're like again going back the unupdated NECA. You know what I mean? So
yeah. So if we were to pretend hypothetically MonsterArts did it, they did have the CGI files, and then Hya came along, you have to honestly ask yourself, what are you going to gravitate more? Sure, Hya has the larger scale. Maybe that appeals to you because you want a larger figure. You now have that option to get that.
Yeah.
And if the details are a little softer, but they're not super soft like the NECAs originally were. So you still get some bang out of your buck right there. But for the MonsterArts, you're really going to get that texture. You're really going to get that detail that's in there. And if they did it to make it look exactly like screen accuracy, what would you really go with? Honestly speaking, just even if it was a 6-inch scale, are you really gonna go for accurate to the max, or are you gonna go for accurate because it's larger? I think that's something to think about.
Yeah.
Is it such a bad thing to have a choice now?
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing is like, you don't have just get whatever you like.
Yeah.
There's no reason that you should go out of your way to just tell people not to buy a certain product anymore because you don't like it anymore. I just don't understand that mentality.
Yeah.
Just
I find
get what you like.
Exactly. I find it ridiculous that people want to pair two things off, and one has to be better. This one's shit because I mean,
Godzilla versus
Hya
Kong.
and MonsterArts, like MonsterArts and Hya, they're both articulated Godzilla figures or kaiju figures, depending on their series, but they're still not really the same, right? I feel like their target audiences are different. They're not real. There's definitely an overlap, but I feel like the core of each line is different from each other. And it's same with like maybe when you add like NECA before or Playmates. Yeah, they're all articulated kaiju figures, but they're aiming for a different end result or end game.
Sure.
So I think it's a bit unfair to compare. I think it's awesome that there's more options out there. More companies making stuff gives people, an option that maybe they couldn't afford before. Maybe it's not in their region. Maybe they just absolutely love that one monster and they want the epitome, the most perfectly sculpted representation of that figure to play with. And if they have the option, awesome. So
I think it's great because it just expands our fan base. It's giving it to people that can't get MonsterArts or X Plus figures. Now there's an option, and they can learn about figure or the franchise in general. I actually had somebody messaging me on Twitter the other day, like, I didn't even know anything about Godzilla monsters until I looked at your site back when you had the MonsterArts countdown back in the day. And I went and looked at all those characters and looked up all the information. So thank you so much for introducing me that. And that was pretty cool to know that there was that impact. But when other lines start doing obscure characters and all that other things, like Super 7 doing stuff like Mogira, right? Like the general collector does, what's a Mogira? Like 1957? What? But now that person that saw it at the store is going to go home online and they're going to look that up. They're going to say, what is this? And now you've just introduced them to a whole new world that they've never even known that existed there. And that expands their knowledge on the franchise. So I think it's important to have variety now. It should be embraced, not crucified.
Sure.
And I mean, I also see all these companies having all the same problems that accuracy wise or paint jobs or this or that. Every single company has these issues. It's not just isolated to MonsterArts. I mean, NECA had issues. NECA has issues all the time. I collect a lot of NECA figures. They are full of issues. And those figures used to cost me $25, and now they're costing me $55 plus sometimes. And it's the same quality figure. Like, so I just don't see the point of focusing on one company. And people are saying they're trying to send a message. Okay, what's the message? Is it that you want better paint? Is it that you want this? Is it that you want that? Then write those messages out. And maybe don't buy the figure, but like, are we saying that because Super 7 or Hya is making a certain scale figure, is that going to mean that Bandai has to now make their MonsterArts figures bigger? That's not how that works either. Because I see people saying that they need to get a hint, and it's like, okay, what is the hint? Like,
you need to be specific.
Also, one commenter asked about bootlegs because we haven't mentioned that. That's also fun. Like I'm really excited about this like bootleg that came out.
That thing's so cool.
I want that one.
That this is sort of like showed up. This showed up. I think one theory I heard, I think mostly from like Ultrazilla, he thought this might have been like a planned NECA that just never got made, and then I don't know, for some reason it ended up like being sold as a bootleg. But I have this on like sitting right next to me every day because I like it so much.
It's so cool.
It's pretty cool.
I wish it would become official.
Coming back to hey, lost my thoughts. Okay, there's 2 points. One about a comment I keep seeing come up. We talked about this before, but saying that Hya, where was it? Hya accepts criticism or they act on details. We talked about this before, but Tamashi does as well. They've acknowledged customer feedback and made actual changes to figures before production hits. And come back. Maybe just because you don't see something or maybe you're not following, you miss some information, doesn't mean it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I talked about this with Harold before. We were talking like online a few times. And so has Tamashi done this? And it's like, here's an example. And okay, so they have done this. Like, so much information is out there and it's split between Instagram, Twitter, I've done a direct live stream with them, articulation series. You've done interviews with Tamashi, Kaiju. You've done one with Super 7. Was it recently?
Yeah.
So this information is spread around. It's not like they come up, get the cameras, the news crew. Hi, we're doing a press announcement. It's the information spread around. So just because you don't see something, don't really act like it's the fact, right? Ask around, take in other feedback from other people, share the information around, and otherwise we keep spreading misinformation, right? And then people start hating on, oh, they don't do this, they don't do it. I heard from Bob, who heard from Jerry, who heard from his mother, who heard from his auntie that none of that's not. We should try to avoid that in the community to make it more fun and enjoyable for everyone involved.
Unless they pick up the phone and call you, Nathan, they're not listening to you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so moving on to this topic right here. We kind of covered a little bit about it, during this conversation, but like, man, this caused quite a stir. Oh my god! I'll admit, I was like, huh? And then I was like, Nathan, did you see that? And like Nathan's like, oh yeah, these are good entry point figures for a lot of people that didn't get into the event. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Didn't I say the same thing to you too? I feel like I said very similar. Yeah.
Yes,
right.
I got a message about these like 6 months ago, and I was like, they look the same, and I was like, are you kidding me? And I was just like, no. This is good. I already can hear it. I could hear it coming.
Yeah, look,
and then when I was
right now, no way you can defend that crap.
Yeah, and then when I heard that it was potentially like a legendary situation, and then there were more forms coming, I was like, oh, okay. And this is before we'd seen trailers and stuff, and so I was like, okay, there's a reason why this is happening. This is to fill a spot right now, and there's going to be more coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Kong has more scratches.
Yeah, and they have updated things here. They seriously have.
Like, just because we can't see doesn't mean there isn't changes, right? And I won't go into any details there, but like when I see these, my first one was like, I've got them, I don't need them. They actually look cool,
exactly,
though, but they're not for me. I have a 29 here. I've got the last one. I bought them. I will do a review, and I'll probably get rid of my last GVK one because I'm not a big fan of it, but they still look cool. They look like they'll be fun, but these aren't, if you've got those last ones, they're not targeted for you. New people going to see a movie, they want a figure, then they will buy it. If you don't need this, don't buy it. Don't get your knickers in a twist about some These are perfect for entry level, and a company, right? They have two options. They release these in GVK. Okay. They've sold out. So what can they do? They can do a basic re-release of that same one. Okay, so if they do that, people that've already bought it, they've got no incentive to buy it because it's the exact same figure. Okay, so they're only getting new people. But if they make some changes, like this Kong is a lot more similar to the event exclusive version, which is based on the end movie. That was limited release. That wasn't wide. Oceania didn't get. Japan didn't get. EU, UK, they get shafted as well. So there's a lot of regions that didn't have access to the battle damage based Kong. So by doing a new version for GVK2, it's basically the same. If you've got it, you don't need it, that's fine. But it's not for you. It's for people that didn't have access to the event exclusive. Maybe they're new to the line. Maybe they've seen the movie and they want it. Not everyone is going to want the powered up version from the end of the movie, right? That's probably going to be more expensive because maybe it's bigger, more accessories, more detailed, right? They want the cheaper, basic one, so they have a Godzilla. This is perfect for that.
Yeah. Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah. So I've talked about these figures a little bit. Like I did my one video where I kind of took the piss a little bit. And then I did a second video being like, okay, here's some potential reasons why we're seeing these releases, right? For better or worse, why we're seeing these things. I think the only other thing I wanted to say about these is the reaction to them, I feel, has been so like, it's been so incredible to see, like for the worst reasons.
Yeah.
But like, if you think about the MonsterArts line and like where it's been, right? Like you see, there was the Space Godzilla release, and people were either like, I already have Space Godzilla, or, you know, I never got it. And so, you know, great. Like those were the two reactions by and large. Okay. Then you move on into like, okay, now they're doing, I don't, what's the crystal dragon from Monster Hunter? It's like Mitsune or something.
Mizutsume?
Something like that.
Mizutsune. Yeah.
Mizutsune. Okay. And so then you have the Godzilla collector was like, not for me. You know, like looks cool, but not for me. Then you get your Mogera announcement. It's like, okay, yeah, either I have it already or I'll get it, right? Then there was Jet Jaguar. Then there was Blue Eyes, and people were like, yeah, it's not for me. It's cool, but it's not for me. And then this gets released, and the reaction is no longer, it's not for me, or it's cool. It's, how dare Bandai? How dare?
Yeah, right.
It's just, what, like, people are acting like this is like the end of the MonsterArts line, or saying like this is bad for the hobby. In what way is this bad for the hobby? Like, I get it. It's not what you wanted right out of the gate. I can completely understand that, right? Playmates comes out with their line. They've got like 8 new sculpts.
Yeah.
Right. Showing off pretty much everything from the movie. Well, maybe not everything, but like Shimo was, to anybody who didn't read the leaks or anything, like Shimo was a huge reveal. And so hot on the heels of that, you see, okay, MonsterArts is going to release their stuff. KDM is saying Hya Toys is going to show their stuff. And so I completely understand like the disappointment where it's like, yeah, they're just reissuing some sculpts. But why can't it just be like the Blue Eyes or the Monster Hunter stuff where it's like, it's not for me, I'll wait for the next thing? Why does it have to be, these are bad for the hobby, this is the end of Bandai, end of MonsterArts? Like, it's not that serious. It's really not that serious. And if this is Bandai's way of raising funds to get all those new toolings done for the 4 or 5 new characters for the new movie, more power to them, man. Like, we'll get there. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like, I have these behind me, but like the Spider-Man No Way Home stuff, how long did it take us to get these? Like 2 years after the movie? Because they didn't share the assets. They didn't have the ability to have those ready to go. And so, like, we'll get there, folks. It's not that serious.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like it's like they're doing the right thing this time around, where they're waiting until they get the assets, and now everybody's going, but you didn't do the right one the first time. We wanted the evolved one. It's just like, but let it cook, guys. Just cook.
Mike Monsters, you had something to say? Yeah.
For one, I'm okay with them not being new right now because I can't afford anything new right now. Like, they need to, there's been a lot of Godzilla coming out lately, and it needs to just my wallet needs to slow down. And I mean, the car situation, it's everything's slowing down. But to go off again back to the response to these figures, some of the responses just, you guys are taking it so personally, and
it's like if your girlfriend dumped you or something.
Yeah, and it's like the company doesn't owe you anything here, realistically. Like, and you don't have to buy it. And if you're getting this upset about this, maybe step out, reevaluate why you're doing this.
Take a lap.
Take a lap, go for a walk, put the phone down for a little bit, maybe play with your toys and see why you like them, and then come back.
And like, as we discussed earlier, like, Tamashi doesn't drop the big bosses or anything that's potential spoiler until the movie's out in Japan. Like we've seen with all the previous movies. And like, it's to be expected, like, maybe it wasn't even in the trailer and they were surprised as well. But like, maybe there's something else with that monster that we haven't seen that's not in the trailer, right? Same with Kong and his gauntlet. Like, and the other boss.
There might be accessories that we can't see yet. Like, that's exactly it. There might be an accessory that they don't want to spoil that none of us know about yet, even through the leaks.
Like, maybe the pink Godzilla is going to come with a glove that you can attach to this Kong. So you don't have to buy a second Kong. Maybe it's like a deal like that, or accessory, or some like battle damage division for the other boss. Like, who knows what they're going to do? We just have to wait and see. The movie's out in a few months. See what happens, and like,
Ultrazilla brought up a good point in his video. He touched upon this, and he mentioned about licensing. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know what like the licensing entails and stuff like that. You know what I mean? A lot of times it's the licensing that dictates what, you know, like dictates to the toy companies like what to release or whatever, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting too. But he did bring up something too that I didn't consider. You know, what if Hya Toys does the exact same thing? They give us like these sort of repaints, you know what I mean? Will people complain about those too?
Well,
because in a way, Playmates kind of did that already. I mean, there's repaints of that blue Godzilla and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So who's to say that Hya is not going to follow suit too? You know what I mean? That could
Hya has repainted every figure they've released so far, it seems like. So
yeah,
it's pretty obvious to me that since Godzilla and Kong are going to have their base forms, if we want to put it that way, in this movie, that we should fully expect a Hya release of them. It's like the same thing with the 2019 and 2021 Godzilla. They almost look exactly the same to me, but they're not the same figure. It's just
I feel like it's
like
we touched on it earlier as well. So that mentality that people have, and their like subconscious expectations for what each company should be doing.
Yeah.
So even when they do the exact same thing,
they
don't get upset because, oh no, it's fine. That's to be expected.
Yeah. Here's another thing that I saw. Somebody was complaining. Oh, you know, like, I'm fine with this Godzilla, but what I'm not fine is that head sculpt. He went back to that head sculpt. They should have updated the head sculpt. And like, why? Listen, if this is the final, okay, let's just assume that this is the final release of this mold, right? Why should a company like Bandai dump more resources into making a new head for this figure if it's going to be the last time they're going to use this mold? I don't think it makes any sense, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a fair point.
Yeah. So
actually, I'm glad that
after the movie comes out and things, you know what I mean? That Godzilla Evolved, that's going to be the new legendary Godzilla moving forward. You know what I mean? So
maybe. I mean, we don't know if it changes back.
Sure, that could be true too. Like, we haven't seen the movie again, so
I'm glad on this one that they took the blue off his mouth. So actually, I think this is an improvement.
That's actually nice that they took the blue off. Yeah,
and actually, it's kind of nice that it actually is nice to have like if you could have like three or more figures that are all the same sculpture but painted differently. Sometimes when they're all lined up like that, they can actually look even better. Like when you have like the standard Godzilla and then one's blue and then one's orange.
It's like they listen to the feedback.
I know. I was about to say, what, you mean people don't like their blue around their mouth? Like, explicitly said, doesn't mean they're not listening, guys.
Here's a thing to remember too. With each Godzilla movie that releases, that movie is always going to bring in new fans to the franchise, right? So this new movie that's coming, it's good. It's definitely going to bring in new fans, okay? Like at my school, okay? I got Godzilla stuff everywhere in my school. And before, when the kids walk through my school, they walk through the doors of my school and they look at that and they're like, what the heck is that? And then it's Godzilla. He's this super, you know what I mean? And then you got, you know, like this character has something magical to him. Like kids get hooked on him. You know what I mean? So like, if parents tell me, oh, Harold, they really like this Godzilla or whatever, they want these Godzilla figures and stuff like that, what should be the starting point for them and things? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this would be like a perfect for them, you know what I mean? Especially like a kid, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, this would be a good entry point for well, not for little kids, you know what I mean? Like the Bandai movie would be good for them, you know what I mean? But like if somebody like a teenager or whatever, like they want to get into Godzilla and stuff like that, this would be a good starting point for them. Kyle.
Yeah. So just 2 points I want to get before the conversation moves on. Harold, you raised the question, like, are they going to redo a head sculpt for a figure that's probably on its way out?
Yeah.
I think you see folks saying like this is the 7th, or I don't even know if it's the 7th, but like whatever. This is the 7th time that we're seeing this sculpt, and they're still not fixing the head. But you're not asking the question. It's the 7th time that we're seeing this sculpt. And they're not changing the head because maybe the general customer where this is targeted is happy with it. Like, do you really think they would have got 7 reuses in if people weren't happy with this sculpt 5 years later, right? So, like, if you don't like the sculpt, I completely understand. I'm on board with you, but I think it's like, again, it's just our personal feelings around these things are not, you shouldn't project them onto the general customer, right? So clearly, and to Mike's point, like, there's also licensor approvals, right? If the licensor's happy with it, then you can only blame Bandai so much, right? Like, there's so many moving parts. Second point, there was somebody in the comments saying that, like, we're being condescending to the folks who aren't fans of the figures. If you got these reveals and you were disappointed, I understand. Okay, I don't like MonsterArts that much. Okay, I want to see the MonsterArts Evolved Godzilla. I want to see the MonsterArts Shimo Scar King. I want to see those things. But I'm not attacked by these figures. Like, I just, they're not for me, and I'm moving on. I'm waiting for the next thing. Maybe the next thing is for me.
Okay, Richard, why is it bullshit? Explain in the comment section why it's bullshit.
It's bullshit, right? Like, 7 reuses because people keep buying them.
They're literally selling out. These figures are selling out.
These are undone. This is like the American bubble, or if you are in America, but it's like that bubble that you're in where you see these figures and you're just like, they're happy. They sell out everywhere. Look at Japan. Like, they're selling out. They're sold out. Pre-orders are sold out over there in Japan. Like, it's just a different ballgame in their domestic actual targeted audience. Like, that's what they're looking at. Their sales. It's not about it. There's just so much to go about it. But like, since I'm talking now, I just want to bring this up really quick, just to more education about the bubble that we live in here in the U.S. when it comes to these specific 2 releases. I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, look, the Awesome Collector still has the GVK ones for a super discounted price." But this is also in the US. Everywhere else doesn't have these GVK figures out there. And just for everybody to remember as well, like, GVK figures were reissued for America, and only America. Japan didn't get the reissues. We got them because they sold so well here in the United States, and we got that reissue. And now we're seeing, a surplus of that on the market still. Not so much for Godzilla, but there's a lot of Kong 2021s, and they're discounted $30 and everything. That's from that reissue batch that's just kind of lingering still. Nobody else has these. So that's why we see that, and it's important to just kind of remember that the rest of the world doesn't have this, especially in Japan. They don't have GVK figures that are just at MSRP over there. They just don't. Yeah. And that's what these figures are coming out for. They're going to cater to that audience that's in Japan that doesn't have a standard GVK figure right now.
Like those figures on release, we see them. Maybe a little bit after. I think they got like popular ones. You might see 1 or 2 small restocks close to the time when they come out. Haven't seen them since. And and you have to remember, in the US, you guys also had the event exclusive. And I'm pretty sure like most people probably buying event exclusives from Tamashii more after the Dragon Ball stuff. So like probably the MonsterArts ones aren't as popular because it's a lot more niche. But there also is another figure that you guys had option to. So like as Michael was saying, like when you have the other re-releases, maybe the amount of people that want to buy them isn't as much, but it's for other newer people that maybe seen the movie recently want to pick up again, and some so-called linger that happens with like some really big lines all the time. Doesn't really mean it's not popular. And you just reminded me, like, one of the funniest comments I saw was when those figures released, someone, I think it might have been one of the action figure Reddit Discord channels, like, what? They've been reusing this mold for almost a decade. I was like, hang on a minute. Do you know how long a decade's 10 years, right? I think it hasn't even been 5 years. That's not almost. Yeah, maybe almost half a decade, but not a decade. I mean, come on, people, like, going in again.
There's some passionate responses out there, I think, and I want to acknowledge this to everybody that's watching it too. It's like, we acknowledge the disappointment that you were. I mean, we were all expecting the Evolved Godzilla 2 for this line. Like, we wanted that first. That's what we're seeing in the trailers. We all expected that, and then we saw that. I mean, when Bandai sent me the promo photos for promo, I was like, "Oh God, save me!"
Oh no!
I know. When I got the messages too, I was like, "Oh,
I was just like,
I said so many
yeah.
explicits." I was like,
So,
"Oh crap!"
but like, yeah, it's just, yeah.
We hear you guys. We hear you guys, and
We
fans
understand.
too.
We're not trying to say that you guys are wrong for wanting better and hoping that in being crushed. You know, we're just trying to offer some perspective as to why what you're seeing happened in the first place. You don't have to like it, but we're offering that to you, and you can do what you want with that information.
Sure.
We hope that you spread that to other people to kind of have them calm down and just take a sit back and just go, okay, you know what? I get it. I get it. That's what we're hoping.
Okay, so Super Sen does not have the legendary license.
No. Separate license.
Cool. Alrighty, very nice.
Not yet. I mean, that could change in the future. You know.
Of course, of course.
It's always the future.
Sorry. Yeah. So let's move on to what to look forward to in 2024. So, guys, I am very excited for one particular company, 3-0. Have you guys heard of them?
Yes.
Yeah. Are they jumping into Godzilla? Are they?
They are. Like when they released, when they announced the Kaiju, is it Kaiju Dao or Kaiju Do, Kyle?
Dao, I think.
Kaiju Dao. Okay. Anyways, Kaiju Dao. Okay. Anyways, when I saw that announcement for Kaiju Dao, it says something along the lines of that they're making kaiju figures, all famous kaiju figures. I go, it's Godzilla. Of course, it's got like if you
has to be.
it has to be Godzilla. It's gonna be Godzilla. Okay. Now, for those of you guys watching, if you guys are unfamiliar with the 3-0 line, let me just give you guys a little bit of a taste because I do have some 3-0 figures myself. So I just want to show you guys. Okay, so this is MDLX Megatron. Okay, so he's about 6 to 7 inches there. Okay, and Optimus Prime. But in their line, they have bigger figures. They have like yeah, and like they're robots and stuff like that. Let me show you that too.
They have like Evangelion.
Yeah. So
that didn't sound good.
Yeah, the MDLX Transformers are really nice.
Oh my god!
Got, like,
no idea. Here it goes. Okay, so look at this Optimus Prime.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I've seen their stuff at conventions. It's pretty wild.
So look at the detail. Like he just like it looks like he just got pulled right out of the screen. Like it's so detailed. I mean, I know you can't see through the camera there, but like the way he's painted and everything, just absolute beautiful paint job on this figure. He looks like the weathering in the metal and everything. You know what I mean? Awesome, just awesome stuff. And also, they also did make a 12-inch tall Ultraman, Shin Ultraman.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right.
Do these move or are they statues?
No, they move, dude. They move.
Look, okay.
Look, they move. Okay.
They have a few different lines. Yeah. They might even have some model kit ones as well, right? Maybe?
And when they make bigger figures, when they go bigger like these guys, they put in the LEDs in the eyes, right? So I'm looking. Oh, I took the. Well, let me see. I took the batteries out of this one. Anyways, they put the LEDs in the eyes. You know what I mean? So like they light up and everything, and like man, I don't know for sure what 3-0 is gonna do with their Kaiju Dao line, but if you look at like the landscape of the figures that we have right now, we have 6-inch figures, 7-inch figures, you know what I mean? And we have 8-inch figures with Super 7. What's the next bracket that's basically vacated, right? 12-inch, right? So I am hoping, like I don't know for sure, this is just a gut feeling. I am hoping that these new figures from 3-0 will be the 12-inch tall monster figures. And if that's the case, oh man, get ready. Get your wallets ready, because I mean, this guy right here, he cost about $200. You know what I mean?
That's not bad.
Yeah. And this Ultraman, I don't remember how much I paid for him. I think I paid like around 100 and something. You know what I mean? Under 200 for sure. You know what I mean? But like, you're getting awesome quality figures with 3.0, and I can't wait to see what they're gonna show us. Now, let me show you guys the only time that we got a large scale figure that was articulated, it was this NECA, okay? 10 years ago. If you guys remember this one, you know what I mean?
The neck is different.
Well, okay. Please excuse this part right here because these are custom pieces, okay?
Okay.
Very.
Yeah, very custom pieces. But like at the time, like to this day, I still believe like this is like the greatest Godzilla figure ever in this scale. You know what I mean? And no one has made a large scale figure in this size that's articulated since. You know what I mean? Yep. So, you know what I mean? Like the landscape is perfect for 3.0 to come in and do 12-inch tall monster figures and stuff like that. I mean, they do the big robots and they do them well. Like when they made that announcement, I looked at my Optimus Prime, okay, and I was just trying to imagine what a Mecha Godzilla would look like, a legendary Mecha Godzilla would look like by 3.0. Like I can't imagine it. Like it's gonna be incredible, I think. So again, I don't know for sure. I mean, Winter Wonderfest is gonna be happening in Japan like next month.
Yeah, on the 11th. I'll be there as well. So
you'll be there.
Yeah. So I'll take some photos and post some stuff.
Yes, because like I am eagerly waiting for that announcement. You know what I mean? And again, the landscape will change again. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna have more options. Like I love big figures. I love doing photography with big figures. Boom. Hopefully, you know what I mean? I don't know for sure, but
I have that figure too, and you know my buddies got it for me as a birthday gift, and so I've got it over there. It's really special to me, and I'm so sad because Randy from NECA said that they were planning to do a 12-inch tall version of their 54 sculpt.
Oh, really?
And it just never materialized.
Oh,
yeah,
man. You know what? Like I was heartbroken to find out from NECA that they weren't going to do a follow-up of 2019. Like I remember your interview, Heisenberg, with the NECA rep at New York Toy Fair, and they mentioned something that kind of made my ears stand. Is like they said that they weren't allowed to make the packaging that they wanted for their figures at the time, but then something happened where now they were finally allowed to re-release those figures with the packaging that they've always wanted. And so that's why we got like, you know, towards the end of the life of that line, we were getting like the re-release of these Godzilla figures with that beautiful box art and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I was like,
the movie posters.
Yeah, you know, but like it's such a shame. Like I don't understand why.
Summer. I did one interview with Summer from NECA.
Yeah.
I remember asking about like the big NECA or the big Godzilla. Like is they ever gonna have more like that? But I think she just sort of like says like, oh, you know, just cover the, you know, what you'd expect in a situation like that. It's like, oh yeah, we hope to, you know, something like, yeah, we'd hope to do that. Yeah, we'd like to do that, but of course, but you know, it's always non-committal.
Sure.
But it didn't happen.
Okay. This person keeps saying asking the exact same thing. Of all the things to say, why in the world SH MonsterArts costs the same price as a SH Ultraman line when the Ultraman line comes with more and is more accurate in everything?
Licensing.
You can watch the video back.
I mean, I feel like we've already answered this question a couple times already.
No, they just don't like the answer.
He just doesn't like the answer. Yeah.
No.
Actually,
I mean, I'll just for any. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to deviate into a sort of different question that people ask. People are asking for accessories. Oh, why can't I have this effect blast when these other lines have it? Well, at the same time, you're also complaining about price. You're already complaining that you don't want to pay X amount or any more for a figure. Those accessories, it may not be big, but these figures are already pretty big, right? So this came about in a few interviews done with them already. I think there's one we did on Discord about other figures, and then at Tamashi Stream. Like, the base mold is expensive. If they can't fit everything on there, then they need another mold, and then the price will drastically increase, right?
Yeah.
So adding on one accessory, the accessory itself may be kind of small, or the material cost may not be high, but just by adding that in, you may need to drastically increase the base mold creation, right, or cost, which will then drive the prices up exponentially, and people would probably don't want to pay an extra $15, $20 just for one blast.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, you're so right, Nathan. We're seeing this in real time with Super 7's Ultimates. They are slowly shifting away from the accessories that come with the figures and putting those funds into the engineering of the figures, because the market is saying, okay, we want more movement in our toys. We want those movements. And Super 7 saying, okay, well, to stay at that $85 price point, we need to cut some of the accessories, put that into the engineering. Like, we've seen this play out in the market. We're seeing it, that, you know, people want a really solid figure first, and maybe they'll care for the accessories. Me personally, I don't have room for beam effects, so I tend to not go for them myself. If you like them, that's fine. I want to just put it out there. But we are seeing this in real time. It's the discussion between, do you invest into the engineering of the figure, or do you invest into the accessories? And if you want both, that price is gonna rocket.
Like, that's why we see these other figures, the decisive battle version, right? People are like, oh, but this comes with effects. Yeah, that base figure was released X amount of time ago. The bulk of the development cost to make it right would have been spent at that time, and then they get to reuse majority of it. So then they can, that money that they've saved that would be allocated per unit that they make, they can then put it towards having extra accessories, new parts, right? That's, the trade-off. Like, in the first place, people like, I can only spend this much, so they have to aim to create the best figure they can for that range. And sometimes we get accessories, sometimes we don't. Right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same category as Kyle. They're nice, but I don't really have space for either. It's sometimes a bit of a pain to fit them in, or when you're trying to jam everything into the cabinet.
Yeah,
it gets a bit annoying.
Yeah.
For photos, it's cool.
Yeah.
And when you're comparing a Figuarts figure to a Godzilla character, there is infinitely more engineering in a Godzilla character than there is the actual, like, humanoid Ultraman. Like, there's just a big difference in how that works. I mean, Ultraman doesn't have a tail, right? You have so many more parts that are being assembled for a Godzilla figure, then that does increase that base price. And the accessories, I know some people, it's like, how come they don't do this back in the beginning of the line? And that's kind of how this company works, at least for the MonsterArts. I was told to get MonsterArts out there and get them popular, they packaged a lot of first-time benefits, effects in them to make them pop and catch. But now that the collector, now that there's an established consumer base, they're not necessary to package, and now they're able to focus on all that engineering and experimentation. And we've seen this just in the Heisei Godzilla itself. We went from 94 to the 1995 model. That was a huge increase, right? We didn't, and those still had beam effects in them. Fast forward, now we got 1989. We have articulation that's more in the tail than the 95 figure ever had. Better engineering around the thigh areas and that. And then we get to 1991. Holy crap, now we have articulation all the way to the very tip of the tail. So, and that's a $95 figure now. It's just the more that they put into it, the more why they do those things. And then also, when it comes to business practices, we now are aware that with this line, they do special color decisive battle variants. They now have a very good reason to save those special effects parts to make it more enticing for the consumer to double dip now, or not double dip. You can wait for that. There's no guarantee it's going to happen, but if they're not releasing beams with the first edition figures anymore. They're kind of focusing on the extras now for the decisive battle variants or special color versions. And that's kind of been the trend for the last 8 years or 6 years or so with this line, ever since the intro cooled it on special effects.
Yeah.
And like, just a quick example. Here goes Ultraman, Godzilla. Besides the bulk, smooth like butter, crazy sculpted. Obviously, I mean, I'd like to think you could just look at this and, you know, already mentally come to the conclusion that there's a solid reason why there's a price difference in the creation of these two figures, which are drastically different. But coming to accessories, and again for Ultraman, a good example is a recent figure from the latest show. I think the main Ultraman, I think 8,000-ish yen retail price, and then they have a separate accessory pack, like 3,500 or 5,000 yen. So instead of combining it into like a $150 figure, which probably not that many people want to buy, they separate it out. That is a cool option, and MonsterArts have done it in the past. They've done a couple of effect sets. So I think that's probably a better way for them to handle that. And it'd be nice to see some more effect sets in the future for people that really do want them. Maybe miniature vehicles, some different blasts as well. Instead of increasing a base figure cost, which will probably take it out of the affordability range for a lot of people, split it and have the option available. I think that would be really nice. So if you want effects, I think you should try and ask them for that instead.
Yeah, cool. All right. So anything else that you guys are looking forward to this year other than the 3 Zeros announcement, the Evolve Godzilla by SH MonsterArts? I'm waiting for that. And also like what Hya is going to do next and things. Anything else that you guys are looking for, like anticipating? Anything else? Kyle?
I'm so looking forward to Super 7's -1 Godzilla.
Yes, me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
like Kyle and I have had some offline discussions around like the expectations around articulation, and it's just I think it's going to be really, really good if they can stick the landing in terms of quality control and stuff, which I don't really have any qualms with. I've been pretty happy with what they've put out. And I just want it to do well so that the line keeps going, because I think that there were genuine issues with the first few waves, right?
Yeah.
And some people who comment on my stuff think that I just kiss their ass, but like I have genuine issues with my first few waves. But wave 3 is starting to land. People really like the Destroyer figure and the Meltdown Godzilla. Kyle's already communicated that the tail articulation for Space Godzilla is going to be improved. -1 is all new articulation scheme. There are no accessories. It's all that funding is going into the engineering. And I think that the Godzilla is going to be a turning point for what they're doing in Ultimates. And I'm super happy and super stoked. And I hope that does well. And I hope that we get a few other variants from -1, because there's an atomic variant.
I think that one. Yeah.
I think that's an obvious one, but I think that I can't say too much, Harold, because you haven't seen the movie, but there's another version towards the end of the movie that I think would make for a bomb figure.
Definitely.
Kind of in the same essence of the Shin Godzilla one, right?
Yeah.
So there's that for sure, because like there was the Bandai figure, and I think there's room to do better. But the final sort of confrontation with Godzilla, like in his final moments, I don't want to spoil it for Harold, but something,
we don't have to go into detail. It's okay. There's something that happens at the end.
To my little sister here. Okay, so Jamzilla, I don't know why Toho has no plans to release the film. No. That has nothing to do with Toho. It has everything to do with the licensing. If your country buys the license, then that movie goes to your country. Here in Taiwan, the Taiwan brand, the theater brand, did not buy the license, so that's why I didn't get to see that movie here in Taiwan. So that's the reason. That has nothing to do with Toho. Okay, just to clarify. Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, so that's what I'm looking forward to. I think that Super 7 is going to hit their stride this year with their -1, and I'm excited for it.
Cool. Mike Monsters, what are you looking forward to?
Same with that -1 figure. I still haven't got the SH one yet. I'm waiting to get my hands on that. And then I'm looking forward to seeing more of what GXK has to deliver. There's more coming. That's all I'll say. Like, there's going to be a lot of. We're not going to hear toy announcements right away after the movie's out, but I think after some time we're going to see some stuff a lot of people are going to be really excited about.
Yeah.
I can't say what I've
Yeah.
seen behind the scenes, but people are going to be excited. I think so. But
there has been a few blurry photos. I've tried to. I haven't tried. Well, I haven't tried to talk much about it but yeah, there's been a few blurry photos of like which don't know where they appeared from, and it's always the photo is always blurry. That's, I find that rather charming. It's like the first time we see a kaiju, it's like it has to be a blurry photo of it.
Sure.
Yeah. I know there were some recent ones that have been floating around that were fake though. So be mindful of that too.
There
came
are
out
a lot
like,
of
I was just
Hya -1. That's fake. Totally fake.
Yeah.
There's
some fake ones out there. So
Michael Shipman, what are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to the next stuff that's coming from MonsterArts. I'm always going to look forward to that. But I think, I've been mentioning to people, 2024 and beyond, we're in for a big treat. So I think I think everybody's going to be happy. There's going to be some stuff that also maybe, make me feel some divisive about it. But, it's just how business goes.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to more MonsterArts, though. I'm ready to add more into there.
Sure. Cool. And Nathan.
Yeah, since I didn't get the original Space Godzilla releases, and we're getting that, I'm looking forward to a Little Godzilla re-release.
So sorry, that sound that you're hearing, that's the garbage truck here in Taiwan. Okay, yeah. So
I was about to say ice cream.
I first came to Taiwan, I thought that was the ice cream truck. It's not. It's a garbage truck.
That's not ice cream. It's a garbage truck. What?
It is. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's so funny. Oh my
god. The kids aren't lining up and asking for ice cream.
But yeah, anyway, so a Little Godzilla announcement would be really cool. I really love the recent. It's not Godzilla, but the Blue Eyes from Yu-Gi-Oh! /MonsterArts. Loved that. So I'm pumped for the Red Eyes one that's coming out later.
The mass production of that looks really good.
Yeah.
So good. Had a good look at I was at Nations back in November. Man, so should be some cool stuff coming.
Sure.
The -1, the Blue Spine Atomic Breath version, if they do one like that, that'd be really cool.
I'll pick that up, even though I got the Super 7 one already. I just want it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I'm keen to see what the other companies are going to do as well. Like, more competition is always good.
Sure.
Like, a lot of companies, they don't care what their competitors are really doing. They'll focus to do their own thing. But, it, may not be conscious, but, it does affect. And, sometimes, other companies will change what they do or go in a slightly different direction, so they can be exciting. There's also a series I love called Kaiju number 8.
Yeah, I heard of that.
Love it. And there's the Figurearts coming for that. So I hope we kind of get like a Ultraman style where we get the Figurearts and then the Kaiju from it as well. Maybe a MonsterArts tie-in or anything Kaiju like that would be really cool. So should be a fun year.
And Heisenberg, what about you, my friend?
Oh yeah, well I'm actually hoping for some legendary international figures, because with some of the previous movies there would be figures that were released not in the United States but somewhere else, like in China or another country, that actually turned out to be really nice. My favorite was for
it'd just be a black blur,
the 2019 movie M-Time in China had these like cute, these chibi Godzillas. You might remember one was like Godzilla like in a bath, like taking a bath with a little rubber duck.
Sure.
And those were like so hard to get. It's like once we saw those, it's like, G Forever and I were like, we got to get these. And G Forever did manage to, like, just because they came and went, like it seemed like overnight. And G Forever did manage to get them. So I'm kind of want to keep my eyes out for things like that. And sometimes it's like the start of something great too. Like also there was that's with Godzilla 2019. That's also when Easy Hobby first appeared with like the little They're with their
Yes.
Eggman figures,
I remember.
and that turned out to be so great. And then luckily Easy Hobbies kept going, and we've gotten to know them better.
Cool. All right, guys. I know that you guys are all tired. I see Heisenberg yawning a couple of times there.
It's almost we're approaching 3 a.m. here.
Yes. Okay.
Normally
gosh.
I'd be asleep.
But thank you so much for staying with us to the end. So, guys, we've hit all the topics, and we talked about everything. I want to, from the bottom of my heart, say thank you to all of you guys, Kaiju Canuck, Mike Monsters, Articulation Series, Nathan, Heisenberg. You guys were awesome. And for all of you guys in the chat, thank you so much, too, for turning up. I mean, I think this was a very constructive conversation, and these are the type of things that I like. And we may not would agree with everybody, but at least we're here together, and we care about this stuff, which is the important thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, and thank you for your time. Thank you for everything. Yeah, Haro Barth, however you say yours. I mean, thank you for chiming in. I mean, it's cool. You know what I mean? So I appreciate it. Okay. So any closing things for you guys?
No, cheers for anyone that does watch the reviews or checks out the checklist on Rockchart for MonsterArts. Thank you, always appreciate it.
Awesome.
It's been nice talking to all you guys as well. It's been fun.
Yeah, and Kyle, where can they find you?
You can find me here on YouTube and on Twitter, Kaiju Canuck.
Cool. And Mike Monsters, where can they find you?
Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, the internet. Just search Mike's Monsters and you'll find me there. But again, you might find Mike Wazowski instead. So
right. Watch out for that.
Yeah. So.
Maybe do the quote. Maybe do the quotes when you search Mike Monsters. Right. Quote that and lock that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can find me. You can find me everywhere though. Anywhere. Just remember, I'm not MonsterArts. I don't make the figures.
Okay.
But also, really quick, I also want to plug this away. When you guys, everybody out there that's watching still, if you're still hanging out, that's great. I've been doing a weekly campaign. I've been working with Bandai on that. Just kind of communicating with they're seeing the numbers for these posts. They're seeing the numbers. I just want to clarify, these posts are not guaranteeing figures to be made, and they're not saying that they're going to be made like next month or 2 months from now. This is purely an area for Western collectors to voice what they want in the line. I'm posting a monster of the week, and you guys have this opportunity. You can go there. You can tell what you want, and I kind of have a couple prompts that you can answer. You don't have to answer all of them, but it's just like, what does this character mean to you? When was the first time you saw it? What would you want in terms of gimmicks for this? Bandai and Tamashii Nations, they're all tagged in those, so every time you respond, they get that notification and they read that stuff there. So please, when you see that stuff, go in there and comment away to your heart's content. Be optimistic if you can, about it. The whole point is to gather information. Don't go in and say, I already did this, we don't need this. That's not the information. This is not the space for that. Just go in there and, like for the Mutos, for example, I posted that this week. There's people that want Mutos in the MonsterArts line. Let's hear it. Let's get that support for that. So go for it, Mike.
I'm just going to echo what he's saying. I was one of those people that ran those social media accounts and was reading those things, and we would screenshot them and show them in reports, and they would go to official sources. So he is not making anything up here. I'm just echoing what he's saying. He is telling the truth. These reports go to Bandai, go to Toho, and they take those numbers and decide if they want to make a figure or not. If the numbers are there, it's going to happen. And again, that Godzilla 98 figure, we wanted to get that to 10K, and it didn't happen. And there's a reason why we haven't seen figures like that. So if you want Godzilla 98, voice it.
And even the campaign post I did for 98 as well. I think it did pass 5,000. I think it hit 7,000 or so. I can't remember. I might be thinking of a different number, but there's more to it than just likes and comments. There's also interactions, guys, that you don't know that we send out to these guys. Like they look at view reach and all that, and they see what those numbers are. So it's just, there's a lot more to it. So please spread the word. If you see those campaign posts, don't knock on them. This is your opportunity to say what you want as a Western collector. do it here. I'm taking the charge for everybody else to, because Bandai, they look at my stuff. They know where to look for this stuff.
I was in that team that looked at all of this, not just kaiju and monster art stuff. We looked at the whole scope of collecting, and Michael was one of the people, because his audience, and a lot of you are his audience, bring in the numbers, and they listen to the accounts that bring in the numbers. And I'm in a lot of the Discord servers. I've seen a lot of people say, what are the points of these things? Are they just for engagement? The engagement brings the figures. Like, that's why we are doing it. They want to hear from us, and they are listening.
And as a person, I don't need to survive off of your guys' engagement. I make no money off of those posts, at all. Like,
a lot of us don't.
I get nothing. I am literally leading the campaign for you guys right there. So just jump on the bandwagon. Just post, get in there, say what you want, say your piece about the figure, and try to stay on topic. Stay on the figure that you're noted about. Because I've got, if you just want to search a character, like say you're joining in late and you're like, oh, I'd really like an Anguirus figure, just type in my name and type in Anguirus campaign and go comment on the Anguirus campaign that was previously there. That data is still being looked at, So
they
it's not like the end of,
we go back to the post. We refer to them. It's not a one-time done. They refer to them over and over. Yeah, exactly.
So you want a bag-in figure? Hey, look up MonsterArts bag-in. You'll see that post right there. Get in there, make a comment, say why you want it. So
retweet it again and share it again and let that thing go viral more. The more it does,
shares,
like
all
that stuff works. It really does.
Cool. All right.
So thank you.
On YouTube, under Rock Channel with a Great Figure Man. The same for Instagram and Twitter, just under Rock Channel. There's a MonsterArts section, but there's also a Global Figure Arts Discord channel. Mainly, it's focused on Dragon Ball, but there's sections for all the other stuff. So if you're into multiple lines, it's a cool place to get news and updates and just share this wonderful hobby in a positive environment.
Awesome. Cool. Heisenberg.
Oh yeah, I'm on Luminous News on YouTube, and keeps me busy.
Awesome. Cool. And I'm
real busy soon.
Here on YouTube, Figuremania Show. I am Figuremania Show on Instagram and Figuremania Show on Twitter or X. All right, guys. So, guys, thank you so much, and I will see you next time until the next stream, whenever that is. All right, guys. Take care, guys.
Awesome.
Stay for a second. Okay, I'm ending the broadcast. All right, guys. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah.